diploma, and I was the only middle school teacher there for this particular student, and so I got to hand her diploma, and that was probably the most memorable experience.
The district has actually provided me a lot of tools and resources. I have the latest technology currently in my classroom with the Clever Touch board. I also have the ability to get my master's degree through Columbus City Schools and take additional classes for my coursework for absolutely free and incorporate it into my teacher schedule.
I chose to work in the district because I grew up in an inner city school, and I met a school nurse that was a nurse of color, and I wanted to be in a school district that had more students that were minority so they could see that they could succeed in whatever field they chose to be in.
They have continuous trainings and workshops that we can do at our pace online through Public School Works. They also have a no-cost out-of-pocket college tuition that we can go to school to obtain our degree.
Everybody is cheering for everybody. Everybody is rooting for everybody. Everybody has one goal, and that's to educate our students. Everything focuses around our students, and that's the biggest thing. That's why I'm in Columbus. That's why I wouldn't leave Columbus. There's a lot of room for growth. You're going to continue to learn. You're going to meet so many people. You're going to connect with people. If you desire to be an administrator, you can go that route. If you desire to be in a TOSA position, a teacher on special assignment, you can go that route. You're going to grow.
You get a lot of different diverse pockets in Columbus, and I think it says a lot with the district as well. Whatever community you find yourself teaching in, you are impacting a certain community. I find myself in the east side impacting a certain, and I know friends in the north and the west side that are doing different work with different populations of students that it's really rewarding.
If you love working with students and family from all walks of life, then come join our team. The opportunity to be a part of a great team is here. I cannot say enough about friendships that I have made with so many amazing people. My family has grown and I love it. I can't wait to meet you, and welcome to our team.
I worked in commercial radio for 40 years. When I arrived in the Columbus market, WCBE was my go-to station when I was not producing another radio show for my employer. Don't tell them that. I volunteered my services. 9 years later, I find myself as the general manager for the station that I love, that is near and dear to me.
My name's Mike Taylor, and I'm a radio broadcast specialist. That's what they're calling me these days. A lot of the artists we play will not be played on any other radio station in Central Ohio, maybe not even in the country. So when we find someone we like, we try to get them on the air, we try to get them into Studio A.
My name is Allison Holm. I'm the afternoon news anchor and reporter, and I've been at WCBE for 25 years. We once had, when I was on doing the newscast, we had the monitor start smoking and catch on fire. And I was in the middle of a newscast, and I couldn't stop. And so I had to wait until I had a sound bite and run to the door and shout out, "The studio's on fire!" and then run back in to finish that story and then go into the next one. So I'm pretty good about ignoring distractions.
My name is Maggie Brennan. I've been with WCBE since my internship since 1993. We'll be excited to have more kids involved and more programming with that, whether they're going to be hosting some of the shows or behind the scenes, or even some of the bands playing live in Studio A.
It's a nice, wholesome place where you can see how the radio gets made. I've been involved with the station since I was a teenager. Around 14 years old was the first time that I went in and did any volunteer work for them. The people who work there know their stuff and make a really great environment for a learning opportunity.
Before I came to WCBE, I was a professional jazz musician. And then I got a job at Fort Hays. On my first day of teaching, I ran out the door and I ran next door and I knocked on the door and I went and I said, "Who's playing that stuff? That is really cool." And then the secretary said, "I think you need to go in the back." So she let me in the back, and the next thing he was going to play was a piece of jazz music, and I have an encyclopedic knowledge of it. So I started telling him exciting things about the thing he was about to play. He said, "Wait just a minute." And he put a mic in front of my face, and for about 10 years then, I was Jim, the wacky sitcom neighbor next door. And I would just barge into people's radio shows and start talking.
It, number one, gave me an opportunity to reunite with Jim Manieri, who I knew from when he was in college and I worked at another radio station. And as a matter of fact, I hadn't had that type of conversation about music probably in 10, 15 years. That's one of the reasons why I do this.
So fun. I mean, I'm a radio girl anyways, but I also am the receptionist, so I get to greet them, bring them into the station, welcome them, and Chris Robinson Brotherhood came through, and Chris Robinson, I just love the Black Crowes, so meeting him, I was kind of geeking out a little bit.
I'm in my 23rd year, and probably the last handful have been the most rewarding and fulfilling. That combination that I love of music and story, the sort of story behind the music. That's a really good combination.
Not.
It's got quiet. 6 o'clock. People ready to start on time. Let's go. Yeah, can you tell them to quiet because it echoes? Shut the door.
Great.
Hello to our entire Columbus City Schools community. My name is Peaches Secondary, and I'm a student at Northland High School. Before we begin tonight's Board of Education's meeting, I invite you to check out these highlights and updates from across the district.
Hello, and welcome to this week's Columbus Board of Education meeting highlights. Summer break is officially here for all the schools across the district, but just because students are on vacation doesn't mean we are taking a break. Earlier this month, community partners and several school districts in Central Ohio gathered for the inaugural Career Tech Forward Conference. The event was a chance for education and industry leaders to collaborate on ways to prepare our students for Ohio's opportunities. Hosted by the Columbus City Career Tech Planning District, the conference focused on economic growth and preparing students for all opportunities in Ohio, especially considering Central Ohio's growth in manufacturing and biotechnology. I was honored to be there to help kick off this conference and excited to see the ways we can prepare students for the future. While we were getting a glimpse into the present and future of career technical education and the economic landscape in Central Ohio, Medina Middle School students were spending their first week of summer break engaged in unique hands-on activities during the school's annual STEM Institute. Throughout the week, students designed STEM projects that included building arch and suspension bridges, developing butterfly gardens and hydroponics, and excavating like archaeologists and paleontologists. I was blown away by Medina's annual STEM Institute. The work these students are already doing as middle schoolers is preparing them to be leaders of tomorrow, not just in school, but in the incredible innovation I know they'll eventually bring to life. For several teachers, the start of their summer break included kicking off year 2 of our STEAM Rising PD Institute. There was a lot of excitement and anticipation following last summer's professional learning experiences, and this year did not disappoint. Our teachers headed back to the classroom to learn about the future of artificial intelligence, agriculture and sustainability, innovations in automotive engineering, and polar research. They even took some exciting field trips of their own to witness some of the technological advances happening right here in our own backyard at Abbott Laboratories and the J.P. Morgan Chase headquarters. We are so appreciative to partners like The Ohio State University, the City of Columbus, Columbus State Community College, and the host of industry leaders who continue to support initiatives like STEAM Rising. We can't wait to see how these experiences transform their classrooms. Speaking of partnerships in action, hundreds of families and community members recently enjoyed an evening of soccer and celebration as part of last week's 614 Day community event. The Columbus crew brought the community together at Northgate Elementary, which is one of several sites in the district that has installed mini pitches. The evening was full of free-to-play soccer sessions and celebrating what makes this city so great. This past Saturday, thousands of CCS students, teachers, staff, families, and allies marched through downtown Columbus in the annual Stonewall Columbus Pride March and Community Festival. While Pride may only be the month of June, we want our students, families, and community to know that CCS is a safe and welcoming place for all. We are grateful for everyone who stood together as allies to support our LGBTQ+ community. Yesterday, the city came together in celebration of Juneteenth on the Avenue, which took place in the heart of Bronzeville, Columbus. The featured archival community photographs, art exhibits, health screenings, and higher education information. It also highlighted performing and visual artists and promoted Black-owned businesses. Juneteenth is a reminder of our community's shared experiences along with the ongoing journey to build equality for everyone. I was glad to be a part of this wonderful event to celebrate community and equity for all. On Tuesday, I had the opportunity to provide opening remarks for the Leadership for Equity Institute, which was a great opportunity to learn and grow together as equity-centered leaders. This institute is the brainchild of our colleagues at the College of Education and Human Ecology. The 2-day workshop focused on fostering inclusivity and challenging systemic barriers that hinder educational success for marginalized students. I am grateful for everyone's commitment to creating a more equitable and inclusive educational environment. Today, we also officially kicked off our 2023 summer experience. Over the next 4 to 6 weeks, nearly 8,000 students will benefit from outside-of-the-box experiences, as well as traditional classroom enrichment aimed at keeping them learning and engaged over the summer break. Each day and week will bring new experiences, new partners, and more chances for our scholars to continue on the path to becoming portrait-ready graduates. Since 2020, our annual summer experience has become one of the most anticipated programs for our students and families. It has allowed us to transform and change the narrative around summer school, but still give students the academic support that they need. Across many areas, we've been able to avoid summer slide and provide students opportunities to get back on track or even ahead in the classroom. I can't wait to spend time with our students, teachers, and partners over the next few weeks. Thank you so much for joining us. These have been your highlights from around the district for the June 20th board meeting.
Good evening, everyone. I am calling our June 20th board meeting to order. Please call the roll.
President Adair.
Present.
Ms. Beckerly.
Present.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Cole.
Present.
Dr. Pierce.
Present.
Ms. Reyes.
Here.
Vice President Vera.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. Will you please all stand and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda is to go into a quick executive session. So Vice President Vera has the motion.
I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session per section 121.22 G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of public employees.
It's been a motion. Is there a second? There's been a second.
Second.
Pierce had the second. Please call the roll.
President Adair.
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
Dr. Pierce.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
Vice President Vera.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We will adjourn briefly into executive session and return momentarily. Thank you.
I worked in commercial radio for 40 years. When I arrived in the Columbus market, WCBE was my go-to station when I was not producing another radio show for my employer. Don't tell them that. I volunteered my services. 9 years later, I find myself as the general manager for the station that I love, that is near and dear to me.
My name's Mike Taylor, and I'm a radio broadcast specialist. That's what they're calling me these days. A lot of the artists we play will not be played on any other radio station in Central Ohio, maybe not even in the country. So when we find someone we like, we try to get them on the air. We try to get them into Studio A.
My name is Allison Holm. I'm the afternoon news anchor and reporter, and I've been at WCBE for 25 years. We once had, when I was on doing the newscast, we had the monitor start smoking and catch on fire. And I was in the middle of a newscast, and I couldn't stop. And so I had to wait until I had a sound bite and run to the door and shout out, "The studio's on fire!" and then run back in to finish that story and then go into the next one. So I'm pretty good about ignoring distractions.
My name is Maggie Brennan. I've been with WCBE since my internship since 1993. We'll be excited to have more kids involved and more programming with that, whether they're going to be hosting some of the shows or behind the scenes, or even some of the bands playing live in Studio A.
It's a nice, wholesome place where you can see how the radio gets made. I've been involved with the station since I was a teenager. Around 14 years old was the first time that I went in and did any volunteer work for them. The people who work there know their stuff and make a really great environment for a learning opportunity.
Before I came to WCBE, I was a professional jazz musician. And then I got a job at Fort Hays. On my first day of teaching, I ran out the door and I ran next door and I knocked on the door and I went and I said, "Who's playing that stuff? That is really cool." And the secretary said, "I think you need to go in the back." So she let me in the back, and the next thing he was going to play was a piece of jazz music, and I have an encyclopedic knowledge of it. So I started telling him exciting things about the thing he was about to play. He said, "Wait just a minute." And he put a mic in front of my face, and for about 10 years then, I was Jim, the wacky sitcom neighbor next door. And I would just barge into people's radio shows and start talking.
It, number one, gave me an opportunity to reunite with Jim Maneri, who I knew from when he was in college and I worked at another radio station. And as a matter of fact, I hadn't had that type of conversation about music probably in 10, 15 years. That's one of the reasons why I do this.
So fun. I mean, I'm a radio girl anyways, but I also am the receptionist, so I get to greet them, bring them into the station, welcome them, and Chris Robinson Brotherhood came through, and Chris Robinson, I just love the Black Crowes, so meeting him, I was kind of geeking out a little bit.
I'm in my 23rd year, and probably the last handful have been the most rewarding and fulfilling. That combination that I love of music and story, the sort of story behind the music. That's a really good combination. When a listener says that they value that and they got something from that and they now are a fan of that artist, that is truly inspiring.
I've had a long relationship with WCBE. Years ago, I started a little show called Cinema Classics with a buddy of mine, John DeSando. And we've been talking about movies on there for years. And then the opportunity came up. There was a job opening, and I thought, wow, I love this place. I love the people that work there. I love the vibe there.
I still feel that it is a group of people who are making this all happen. And we're all counting on each other and building on what each other does. And that's an unusual and awesome experience.
My name is Lolita Vaughn, and I am a special ed instructional assistant for Columbus City Schools. I have been employed with the district for 11 plus years now. I chose to work for Columbus City School because I like helping children and families. Coming from a background of being a home child care provider for 12 years, it just fit.
They see themselves when they look at me. Most of our students, are African American, and there's not a lot of males in education. Me being in that role, pre-K teacher, being one of the first teachers that they see, I know I affect change. They see it, they see a positive role model, they see a positive male, positive figure in their life.
This past graduation class was my first class of 6th graders. So they graduated last year, and one of the area high schools has a really cool tradition where they ask their former teachers to come back and give their diploma, and I was the only middle school teacher there for this particular student, and so I got to hand her a diploma, and that was probably the most memorable experience.
The district has actually provided me a lot of tools and resources. I have the latest technology currently in my classroom with the Clever Touch board. I also have the ability to get my master's degree through Columbus City Schools and take additional classes for my coursework for absolutely free and incorporate it into my teacher schedule.
I chose to work in the district because I grew up in an inner city school, and I met a school nurse that was a nurse of color, and I wanted to be in a school district that had more students that were minority so they could see that they could succeed in whatever field they chose to be in.
They have continuous trainings and workshops that we can do at our pace online through Public School Works. They also have a no-cost out-of-pocket college tuition that we can go to school to obtain our degree.
Everybody is cheering for everybody. Everybody is rooting for everybody. Everybody has one goal, and that's to educate our students. Everything focuses around our students, and that's the biggest thing. That's why I'm in Columbus. That's why I wouldn't leave Columbus. There's a lot of room for growth. You're going to continue to learn. You're going to meet so many people. You're going to connect with people. If you desire to be an administrator, you can go that route. If you desire to be in a TOSA position, a teacher on special assignment, you can go that route. You're going to grow.
You get a lot of different diverse pockets in Columbus, and I think it says a lot with the district as well. Whatever community you find yourself teaching in, you are impacting a certain community. I find myself in the east side impacting a certain, and I know friends in the north and the west side that are doing different work with different populations of students that it's really rewarding.
If you love working with students and family from all walks of life, then come join our team. The opportunity to be a part of a great team is here. I cannot say enough about friendships that I have made with so many amazing people. My family has grown, and I love it. I can't wait to meet you, and welcome to our team.
We are now out of executive session, and we will continue with our agenda. We are going to be adopting our agenda. So this evening, we have 2 individuals here for public comment. We have lots of items on board matters. We have a report from our superintendent, no report from internal audit, no report from our treasurer's office. We have a public hearing on reemployment of a retired employee. We have our consent agenda. We will not have speakers at the end of the agenda, and we will have another executive session. Is there a motion to approve our agenda? Motion to approve. It's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a second. Are there any changes or additions? Seeing none, without objection, our agenda is now adopted. We're going to go ahead and go into public comment. Our first speaker is Carolyn Smith. Topic, agenda item 19.1, action requested, postpone voting on new assignment of chief of staff. Ms. Smith, you have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good evening, President Adair, Vice President Adair, members of the board. I am requesting that you postpone the new assignment of the Chief of Staff until the conclusions of the concerns raised in investigation opened on January the 5th, 2023. The concerns are significant and relate to fair treatment of employees. No communication on the outcomes of the investigation has been provided as of June 20th, 2023. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Our next speaker is Courtney Johnson. Topic, agenda item, amendment to board policy 2525, action requested, revised amendment 2525. Good evening, Ms. Johnson.
Hi. Thank you, Board President Adair, Vice President Vera, members of the board, and Superintendent Chapman. My name is Courtney Johnson. I'm the Library Media Specialist right over here at Fort Hays and a core member of the Columbus Education Justice Coalition, and I am here to speak to Board Policy 2525. As you probably know, book bans have gotten so bad in the United States that President Biden recently appointed a book ban coordinator at the federal level to help make schools aware that book bans can violate federal civil rights laws. To be clear, a school book ban can take varied forms and can include prohibition on books in the library or classrooms, as well as a range of other restrictions, some of which may only be temporary. I am grateful for the progress we've made on 2525 to ensure that our students' right to read is protected. This version is very solid with 2 exceptions. Number 1, under individual or group complaints, item B, it states the superintendent or designee may choose to convene a review committee. And number 2, the last lines in the policy state, challenged resources will remain in use unless the material is deemed obscene, sexually explicit, or harmful to minors. Both of these lines give the power to ban a book to a single individual. A book with a public complaint has the right to be reevaluated by a reconsideration committee, not one administrator who could use their own viewpoint bias to ban the book. Allowing a book to be pulled during the process for any reason and by any one person is censorship and a violation of students' civil rights. Further, 1, there are federal definitions of obscenity, and I highly recommend we use them. 2, in this current climate, sexually explicit most often refers to queer book. PEN America says 41% of banned books expressly address LGBTQ themes and characters, and I know this board does not stand for policies that harm our queer kids, and this policy allows the targeting of those books. And lastly, like the term age appropriate, the idea of harmful to minors is vague and hard to define. That's why we have Board Policy 9930, which allows parents to opt out of content they find harmful for their own children. That does not mean it is harmful for all children. Again, the process should determine this, not just one person. I joined the district's position on ensuring that we provide high quality reading materials to our students. It has literally been my life's work to do that. We have one chance to get this policy right, and these 2 areas need more careful thought. I'm asking CCS to be brave and lead the state on protecting our school libraries from censorship and our students' right to read. And remember, no one who supported book banning has ever been on the right side of history. I hope you will support me in making these changes to the policy before voting to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move into board matters. Our first item is a resolution to employ the superintendent. Board members, I would like to make the motion and read the resolution employing our superintendent. The Columbus Board of Education desires to employ Dr. Angela Chapman as superintendent of the Columbus City School District effective July 1, 2023 through July 31st, 2026. The Columbus Board of Education hereby appoints Dr. Angela Chapman as superintendent of the Columbus City School District commencing during this time period. The Columbus Board of Education hereby approves the contract of superintendent with Dr. Angela Chapman for this term. Let it be further resolved that the president of the board and Dr. Angela Chapman will execute the contract this evening. That is our motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll. Is there any discussion? Sorry. Please call the roll.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you. We're going to have Dr. Chapman and myself. We are going to come in front of everyone and sign your contract. And I want to recognize her family and have them come stand alongside her and her son Noble, who is a CCS student. And I know that they all are crying. It is a happy day for all of us. So let's go ahead and have our table moved and have the family come up.
We didn't ask her. Oh, that's a good picture.
What did she just ask?
Congratulations. Yes, sir. Thank you. Sure. Congratulations.
Madam Superintendent, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, President Adair, members of the board, certainly I want to thank you for this opportunity. I certainly consider it an honor and a privilege to serve our district. Certainly you all know that I am very committed and passionate about the work that we are leading in CCS, and it is my commitment to our students, our staff, and our community to continue on the path forward. Know that we will advocate on behalf of the 45,000 students that we serve and the 9,000 employees. I serve alongside you and will continue to collaborate with you to make sure that we are positioning our students and our staff to lead the great work that we are leading in CCS. So I'm excited about this opportunity. I consider it an honor to serve alongside you, and I look forward to all that is in store for us. The best is yet to come.
Okay, our next item is 5.2, resolution to approve the collective bargaining agreement with Columbus School Employees Association, OPSI ASME Local 4, AFL-CIO. I'm going to turn to Vice President Vera for this motion.
All right, so whereas representatives of the Board of Education and the Columbus School Employees Association have engaged in negotiations for a successor contract to the collective bargaining agreement that expires on July 31st, 2023, and whereas the attached document contains the terms developed through the bargaining process and approved by the Columbus Employees Association on June 10th, 2023, and whereas the document provides the terms of successor contract that shall continue in full force and effect through July 31st, 2026. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves an agreement with the Columbus School Employees Association based on the terms described in the attached document. And be it further resolved, the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent prior to printing and when with the agreement of the Columbus School Employee Association to make minor editorial corrections and changes as needed, provided such corrections and changes do not result in any modification of the intent and substance of the agreement. And be it further resolved that the president of the board, superintendent, treasurer, chief of staff, chief negotiator for the board be authorized and directed to affix their signatures to the agreement as hereon described between the Board of Education and the Columbus School Employees Association.
That is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Everybody second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
The motion carried.
Your contract has been approved. We're going to have the officers and those that were listed from CCS come up and sign. As we're signing, I'm going to open the floor to members of the board. If you would like to make some comments, I'm going to allow you to just do that as I will be up signing. So,
I would like to defer my comments to members of members who are here who would like to speak. So I'll defer the floor to them.
Same. Thank you, sir.
I want to recognize President Carson.
Congratulations, y'all.
Do me a favor, read it and send me an email. We'll get together and talk about it. Okay.
Only half of the negotiation team. We're a unique group because we take about 25 people to the table. You don't hear that many people normally come into the negotiation table, but it's not about Lois Carson. It is about all of these people standing behind me and the 3,000 plus members in Columbus City Schools. I speak on behalf of us because if you had to hear all of us talk, we'd be here all night. But this was a different negotiation session. So officially Superintendent Chapman, I laughed because I was counting how many have I had to go through. And you are superintendent number 5, and I'm starting to get a complex. Is it me? or what? But in my 37-year career, I lost track. I don't know how many I've had to work with, but in this leadership role, I've had 5. You're the first one in my 5 years negotiating a contract came to the table and opened the session up in a positive atmosphere. Our team commented throughout the whole negotiation how respected they were of you making that step and that first icebreaker, because Andre Washington, who is our negotiator, him and I came into this with, oh my God, what are we going into this time? And when you walked out that day, we stopped each other in the parking lot and we looked and said, who are these people? Where they come from? The atmosphere, you changed it. And so we thank you for that. Is the honeymoon over? We don't know, but we're willing to continue to move forward as a group in a positive. We're going to argue, fuss, and fight because that's what any good relationship does. It fusses and it fights to grow. So we're looking forward to growing with all of you on this board. We're looking forward to growing with you, Dr. Chapman, and your team. And you will hear occasions where they will say to you, Lois is throwing a tantrum, Andre's throwing a tantrum, but it's all done with love because we have 3,000 members. All they want is respect and dignity on the job. And as long as I'm living and breathing, I will fight for respect and dignity of all classified workers across the state of Ohio, because I like to remind you, board members, most classified staff will see a student, and a student will see us at least 7 times before they hit a classroom. They will be greeted by a bus driver. They will be greeted by an instructional aide or a child care attendant on the bus. They will enter a building. They will run into a custodian, food service worker, giving them their breakfast meal. Might be the only breakfast meal that they will receive during a week. They will then run into a couple more child care intervention aides, special need aides in the building. They will run across the secretary. They will run across an account clerk. They will run across the buildings and operation guys, keeping the grounds, keeping the electric running, keeping the heating running, the air conditioning running. They haven't even got to the classroom yet to see a teacher, but doggone it, they saw us. So if you're out there in the community listening and putting a selfish pitch in, we are hiring in Columbus City Schools. So please come and join this great team of individuals and be a classified worker. We need in every area because you can impact someone's life. I will never forget Mrs. Smoot, the clerk at Leonard McKinley High School, who was the coolest person there because she held the hall passes, and she would let me pass the hall passes out. So we do remember our classified employees 30, 40 years later. So on that note, Stan, thank you. I laughed and said to him, Stan, this is your last contract you're signing with us. You didn't push enough money through for us, Stan. But thank you. Did I leave off anything, team? Thank you guys. Because no matter what, you guys always have Andre's back, my back, and you guys rock. Thank you.
Yeah.
And your team, I'm going to let Andre thank you for them.
I want to, Madam President, Vice President, board members, I think that it's appropriate that we thank your negotiating team. Julie Martin and her firm, John Dean, everybody on your team was awesome. They negotiated in good faith. They didn't give us everything we wanted, but they negotiated in good faith, and I'm here to tell you that as long as I've been doing this for 23 years, Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, Findlay, Ohio, and now here in Columbus, this is the first time that I negotiated a contract in 4.5 days. So I want to thank you. I want to give another shout out to Mike DeFabo, because prior to negotiations, Mike has really been very instrumental in helping moving not just this district, but OPSI forward. And I'm sorry, but don't turn the clock off on me, the mic off on me yet. I got to mention this. I heard Ms. Smith earlier, she mentioned the chief of staff. Well, in OPSI, we don't play secret squirrel. She was talking about Mike DeFabo. But I'm here to tell you that I represent 3,000 people, and I'm gonna tell you what my grandmother used to say. Can everybody be wrong and one person right? And 3,000 people don't have a problem with Mike, so you need to approve his contract. I don't care what one person said. Can everybody be wrong and one person right? So I had to mention that because I don't know where she was coming from, but I can tell you where OPSI's coming from with Mike DeFabo. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the board would also like to thank the two negotiating teams, and could members of our negotiating team who are here please stand and be recognized as well. Some of you are already standing in the back. CCS negotiators, you deserve a round of applause as well. Dr. Chapman, thank you for joining them on that first day. We want to thank you guys. They're all hugging in the back. You know, it's about the power of relationships, and this board has stayed strong on the fact that we believe in the power of relationships, and we value and respect all of our employees. And we are very excited that we have administrators all through this organization that believe in that as well. The only way that we are going to be able to move our district forward for our children is by standing together. And we know that we can do that, and we believe in all of our employees, we believe in our students, and we believe in the power of CCS. So thank you everyone for this contract. Thank you to our classified staff. We really can't do it without you. And I think that this was just a testament to having a shared vision and value and being able to work through our differences in a way that was very respectful and collaborative to come to an agreement that provides dignity to some of our hardest workers in this district. Thank you to the OPSI team. Thank you to our CCS negotiators, and we look forward to fulfilling this contract. All right, we're about to move into a whole slew of policy. So this is a first reading on several policies. First reading means that we are introducing it to the public and to the board, and it will come back for second reading. So just as Ms. Johnson came up and spoke to one of these, this is a perfect time to share thoughts and comments about different policies, as the board will be considering them and coming back at the next meeting in August to do a second reading. So I will turn it over to Board Member Brown to take us through items 5.3 through 5.9, as these are all first reading of board policy. Board Member Brown.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to address these 7 policies collectively this evening because this is an introduction to the board and to the public about this work that has been underway for months and I think has produced some really good, strong policies with respect to instructional resources. And all 7 policies pertain to instructional resources, how they're selected, how we deal with complaints, whether they're from students, parents, or otherwise, and a process for those things. It's something that we've needed for some time. These 7 policy items, along with several of the administrative guidelines to go with them that are presented more for context than for anything else, to make sure that you understand where we're headed. They were presented to the Governance Policy and Advocacy Committee on June 7th. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum, so no official action was taken. However, we did work through these policies, we did have a good discussion, and we did have a unanimous indication of support from all those present. As I say, the administrative guidelines are for informational purposes. It's my intent to go through this in a general way, to ask Todd Walker to add some further detail, especially from an administrative perspective. And then I want to hear from all of you, or any of you, or anybody who cares to comment through the course of the next month before we get to the August meeting, so that we can shape these up if there's anything that needs to be addressed. As I said, these policies deal with instructional resources. In order to establish a clear and concise package of policies and guidelines related to instructional resources, the administration has worked very hard and presented several policies to the board. The draft policies are intended to clearly define 3 different types of instructional resources. First, textbooks. Second, instructional materials. And third, library materials or books. In addition, the complaint process is entirely new. It's not been in our policy, and it's a policy that will need to be followed when a current student, parent of a current student, or anyone has a complaint related to any of the 3 categories. The guidelines set forth selection criteria for each type of instructional resource, and that is an administrative matter. Several other related policies to these have been updated in order to direct students and parents to the correct policy or administrative guideline based on the type of information they seek. We have already solicited and received input from staff and CEA during the course of drafting and updating the policies and administrative guidelines. I don't recall specifically whether we've presented these specifically to CSEA, but I will ask that that be done so that we can receive comments, if any, from our classified employees. And we'll receive those over the next month. During the GPAC meeting, Board Member Cole made a few suggestions and minor changes that are reflected in the documents as presented tonight. Mr. Cole is Vice Chair of the committee. Do you have anything else to offer right now?
Just to add, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Board Member Brown, colleagues, this policy as in our first reading, and I look forward to feedback as well, is one that demonstrates the spirit and tenor of this school district, that our children and materials that are designed to instruct them and guide them are first priority in terms of safety, and also high priority in terms of impact, what it is that we're actually training up our youngsters to be able to do in the most substantive, reasonable ways possible. This process by which voice is included in the process is very inclusive as well. So parents, students, everybody has a progressive opportunity to speak and have their opportunity to say what it is that they like or dislike about instructional materials or textbooks. So it's a very inclusive process. I'm glad and have been happy to be a part of this and look forward to the work to come.
Thank you. And as has been indicated, this board strongly supports the First Amendment, strongly supports the use of materials for the benefit of our kids, and I think this will be a real good addition to the policy manual for our board, and especially, you heard earlier that there's a wave of protest across the country, at times directed at books or wanting to ban books. We've not had much of that kind of experience in this school district, thank goodness. And we've got a very supportive community in this area, and we're thankful for that. This will provide us a process for what to do, how to proceed in the event such a complaint ever arises. So I encourage you all to take a hard look at these over the next month and let me know if there's anything that you have a question about or feel needs to be changed or considered for change, and we'll do that and bring it back in August.
I have a question.
Yes. Do we have board questions that can wait until after Dr. Walker?
Dr. Walker.
Dr. Walker.
Yeah, let's have him come up and then we'll do questions.
No. Administrative perspective? Thank you.
So good evening, President Adair, Vice President Vera, Chair Brown, Co-Chair Cole, all board members, Madam Superintendent, official today, congratulations. I just want to offer a few contextual remarks that I think are helpful to these policies. Some reiterate things that have been said, certainly by Board Member Brown already and Board Member Cole. But at a sort of a 30,000 foot, 100,000 foot contextual view from my role as Chief of Curriculum and Instruction, we've been exploring this for several months and how to make sure that we get this right because we know that this is important. And in doing this work, there are what I call 4 C's with a 5th C that is that we're entering to now that have guided, that have acted as guiding principles for how we've thought about this work. And it is a collective we. Kyle Lathwell, who works in our policy and governance office with James Barnes, is not able to be here with us today, but she's taken on the lion's share of the work as it relates to creating these policies and ensuring that they are in alignment with what we see around the country and specifically with what we see in Ohio. So the first C that we've thought about is collaboration. And our superintendent has mentioned that, our board has mentioned that. We talked about the importance of voice. And so when we looked at the fact that we knew that we needed to have some policies because there were some existing gaps, we first thought we need to make sure that we collaborate. And so I had an opportunity to meet Courtney, who you heard from earlier, as well as our other librarians, and they were very much involved in the process, specifically as it relates to the selection of library materials and resources, because we honor and respect their expertise. And so that portion of the work was very much co-created and designed with our librarians, and they had a lot of input and feedback on that element. I do want to sort of emphasize that this was not in response to a particular situation, but really the whole of our effort here was to make sure that we have clear policies and processes to address any issues that may arise. So collaboration was significant and important. The second C is clarity. We wanted to make sure that the policies and the administrative guidelines that we developed could be easily understood, and that they were a precise statement of a process that could be followed should any questions about the instructional materials, instructional library materials or textbooks that we selected arise. Also, we wanted to make sure that there was coherence, specifically coherence with other policies that were already in the framework of our CCS policies as it relates to federal statute, as it speaks to particular instances, particularly those depictions that are harmful to minors. And we wanted to make sure that there was shared meaning and shared understanding, coherence across all of our policies, so that we had an internal coherent system as it relates to how we think about these sorts of issues or issues that may arise. Also, a third C was that we wanted to make sure that we had consistency. And with consistency, we're looking at how are we handling internal issues, right? So how are things being handled? We want to make sure that we have a consistent way to address any concerns if they should arise. And we also want to make sure that externally, that the way that we're handling, when we look across our district, Ohio law is a little bit different than some of the other states. Certainly there's some federal statutes that guide these sorts of issues, but we wanted to make sure that we were consistent as it relates to how similarly situated districts in the Big Eight address these sorts of issues and how they approach these sorts of challenges if they should arise. And as Board Member Brown mentioned, we've been very fortunate not to have had any significant issues or challenges that have arisen up to this point. Lastly, I would just emphasize as a fifth C, I think I'm counting correctly tonight. This is 5. Is consensus, and consensus means that every voice gets heard, and that's why this process is important, because we get to hear from everyone. We know that we don't always get everything that we want in anything, but we want to make sure that we've honored all voices. And so certainly we've been trying to. Dr. Chapman has met with the librarians, I believe twice. I've met with them often through this process. We've met with our union partners with CEA on a couple of different occasions and have made some adjustments to the policy based off of their feedback. So voice is very important to us, and as we move forward, want to make sure that we honor that voice in the process. Thank you.
And finally, if I could just mention, to help motivate my colleagues on the board, any decisions made in this process, whether they're decisions by the superintendent, decisions by a review committee, they're all subject to appeal to this board. So we're the last word on those matters, and you want to make sure that there's a good process before it comes to us. And that's why this is drawn the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. We did some questions. We'll go Beckerly, then Pierce.
Did you see me?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you, Board Member Brown, Board Member Cole, and everyone who worked on this. we have not had this come up so far. Be surprised if it's not coming. And to have this all carefully thought out and in place ahead of time is an incredible benefit. So thank you.
Dr. Pierce.
Thank you so much for working on these policies. I just want to point us that as we review them, could we think about consistency? So for example, some of the policies read that students will be able to use them free of charge, where some of the policies state reasonable access. So I think across all of them, we want to make sure that we bring consistent with the language that is being used. Another area of consistency would be final responsibility being vested in the board. So for example, some of the policies indicate that final responsibility for instructional and textbook materials is vested to the board, whereas final responsibility for the library materials are vested with the superintendent or designee. What makes those two types of materials different? So let's be consistent with that. The next recommendation that I have for us as we look at this as a board is to look at the processes behind this. One, do parents receive advance notice of the instructional materials that will be used? As one of the questions in the complaint forms asks, did you read the entire instructional resource at issue? As an educator myself, sometimes I just might assign a chapter in a book or a couple of pages from an article. So what do we mean by the entire instructional resource? And again, are we giving parents or interested caregivers the opportunity to read that and know in advance what their students are receiving? And then in terms of the process, how do students and families share suggested changes to these policies? You also indicated our union colleagues to share their suggestions. So how and who should they contact to share those suggested changes?
Thank you. And on that last point, if I could just say that I'm the point person, and anybody who has suggestions over the next month, we anticipate getting to our second reading, adopting policies, first meeting in August. I don't recall the dates, but we want them ready before the start of the next school year, if at all possible.
Vice President Vera.
Yeah, so my, Dr. Pierce's final thought was my thought. How do communities, so Dr. Walker mentioned consensus, which I also believe in. And so wanting to make sure that we are, letting the community know how they can get in touch with you, Chair Brown.
My email is on the school website, ebrown@columbus.k12.oh.us, or you're welcome to call me or text me. 614-477-3528 is my personal cell phone, and I'm happy to talk with anybody or receive communications about this.
Thank you. You're brave. You gave out your personal cell. We can also probably get this up on the district website and share it on Facebook to collect comments through a survey or something like that, because we do want to ensure community input.
My phone number is also on the school website.
It is public.
It's always
It's like
been
it's always
public,
been
and I've never received an inappropriate call. And the folks at the Supreme Court really didn't like me doing that.
All right, Board Member Beckerly.
To that point, Vice President Vera, I think that the follow-up question or the primary question is, are we communicating this to parents and saying, heads up, this is happening, let us know? Because I think as much as I appreciate Board Member Brown's transparency, I don't know that sharing his phone number right now is really the best way to make sure that our parents and other stakeholders know we're considering this. So let's think about other ways to get the word out.
And please keep in mind that policy is never set in stone, that if we discover months down the road that something needs to be fixed, we can do that. Or the board that is in place at that time can do that.
All right, thank you so much, Board Member Brown. All right, we're going to move to item 510, resolution to approve the 2023-2024 internal audit plan. I'm going to turn it over to Board Member Beckerle, who chairs the internal audit committee.
Okay, the thought behind this resolution is simply to provide clarity to our Office of Internal Audit in terms of their processes and procedures and their work plan in the absence of an internal auditor that's reporting directly to us. So it's pretty simple and straightforward. There's a plan. We just wanted to make it clear that the board is directing them to move forward and implement the plan in the ordinary course of their work, which they are, understanding needs to be done.
Is that a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was supposed to describe it. All right. I move that we direct the motion for the resolution to direct the Office of Internal Audit to implement the draft work plan.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comment by the board?
I just think it's upon us as a board to spend some time with that staff, with that team in our internal auditor office to address the concerns that community member Ms. Smith brought to us this evening, not in terms of Mr. DeFabo, in fact, being the chief of staff, but ensuring that they have a leader that is well positioned to be able to work with them as they complete their work plan.
Other comments, questions? Please call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerle?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you. We're going to move to item 5.11, resolution declaring it necessary to levy a tax and requesting the county auditor to certify matters in connection with the proposed tax levy. I'm going to turn this over to Chair Cole, the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, colleagues. I want to set a premise, a foundation, a preface for this legislation this evening. That's about several simple things. The first is providing for a need. The first is providing a need. Bless you. We have a tremendous responsibility in being providers for children and staff. And we need to be able to do that with the economic means that are available for us to do that. This is one of the best ways for us to leverage that opportunity. The second is keeping your word. One of the first lessons my father ever gave me in about keeping my word was an adolescent, and I was a wayward one. But he taught me about keeping your word. Here is another opportunity for us to go to the community, and you heard the wonderful stories tonight about the negotiation process and how folks felt about the progress that has been made in that space. Well, that's all in the spirit of keeping our word. This is another opportunity for us to do that, to provide for children, but also provide the amenities that we promised as a board to so many of our staff, employees, who need the things that they need to operate efficiently, to operate optimally, to be at their best, so that our kids are at their best. So I offer this as a motion tonight, and I know we'll speak more on it, but I offer this as a motion tonight for board acceptance to move forward so that we can very confidently and collaboratively move together and tell the community that this is what our children and our staff need, and very respectfully and humbly ask them to make that investment. And not only just the microcosm population of students and staff, but society as a whole. Public education is not just something that benefits a kid in a public school, it benefits society as a whole. We're not just teaching kids how to read, we're preparing them to be productive, contributive adults who come into a workspace ready to hit the ground running. And with that, I offer this as a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. There are comments, questions? Board Member Brown?
I feel strongly that we should move forward with these issues. This is just the first step, but I think that $3 million operating levy is certainly one that has considered the thoughts of many, many people, has considered that we have job not only to provide for the education of our young people, but also to be good fiscal stewards of our public resources. And we know that those are hard to come by, and we need to make sure that we continue to be transparent and that we use those resources wisely and prudently. I think that this request honors that. With respect to the $4.7 million permanent improvement levy, I know that when I first arrived, it was important to me. Having had the experience in my prior school district in the greater Cleveland area to have a permanent improvement levy, it was important that we do so. I kept hearing at that time about the deferred maintenance and the amount of deferred maintenance, and it was extreme. And this, so far, the $500,000 that we have has allowed us to at least make a dent in that. But it's also helped us identify clearly what the need is and what it will require to sustain taking care of our resources on an ongoing basis. Nobody rationally or responsibly would go through the world and not repair their roof and not take care of the maintenance on their vehicles as you go. If you don't, things get worse and then they cost more. And that's our responsibility to take care of, and because of that, I strongly support moving forward with the permanent improvement levy.
Board Member Cole.
Thank you. If I may just quickly add, and thank you so much, Eric, for talking through some of the elements that these two operating issues moving forward will provide. The first, of course, is a $3 million operating levy. This levies always provide to general fund and support staff, right? 85% of our budget is appropriated to staff. The second piece is the permanent improvement levy that also goes to general fund. The difference, the distinction, is that we have the opportunity to take those dollars and set them aside specifically for capital needs, and not things that are bricks and mortar that build new brick and mortar, right? This is not to build new schools. This is actually to maintain the assets, as my colleague just very clearly alluded, that this is helping us close the gap. We have had more than a year-long discussion about why this is important, because we know we have aging assets. We know that we have provided well over 60 buildings, new HVAC and amenities that we were able to leverage through a previous permanent improvement levy. But today, because that money doesn't necessarily run forever, we need to close that gap even more. This is our opportunity to do it. We can't wait. If there's a question of why and why now, the answer is why now? Because the longer we wait, the more we kick this down the road, the more expensive it becomes. The more expensive it becomes. I'll close with, you heard my colleague say that we're trying to be responsible. We're trying to be prudent with our dollars. This is one of the ways, by asking at the right time and at the right amount. The value of doing this is best for our children and for our staff now. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Treasurer.
Just a procedural issue so you're all aware. This is a resolution declaring the necessity to levy a tax. You can read the specifics of that because it's a necessity to levy a tax outside the 10 mil limitation that's constitutionally set. But not to bore you with those details, you're simply saying we need to levy a tax. This then goes to the county auditor, who certifies amounts back to me. How much will the 3 mil levy generate? How much will the 4.7 PI levy generate? And how much will that then cost? But those, the cost of that is spelled out in this resolution, and we're highly confident that we did the math correctly in that resolution for the cost. Then later, which is scheduled for August 1st, you will be presented with a resolution to proceed, that is to proceed to actually place it on the November ballot. That will then be delivered to the County Board of Elections, and it will then be put on the actual ballot for voting on November 7th. So there are two procedural steps in this. This is just the first.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Before we go into the superintendent's report, I want to take a moment to recognize two individuals whose last regular CCS board meeting it is tonight. The first person I would like to recognize is Misty Nichols. She's like, what? Come over here, please, Misty. Misty Nichols has served as our board liaison, and we are excited that she is going to be able to transition, and she's still staying with CCS as she is just moving into a role into our career tech, which we're very excited about. But we wanted to say thank you because we know we are not an easy bunch. And you have, kept us in line. You've kept us organized. You have let us cry on your shoulder. You've given us pep talks. You have kept confidence, and you have been put in positions that have been hard for you. We just want you to know that we appreciate you. We are excited for your future, and we just, wish you well in this next path. And although we will not see you every day, we are still with you and but a phone call away if you need us. So we wanted to say thank you for your service to us these many years. And the next is our treasurer, and I will give Stan, which now is customary, our apple. And then I'm going to turn it over to Michael Cole for the official thank yous. But we give everyone who sits at the board table on their last meeting a apple. So here's Stan's, and it says, Columbus City School Treasurer, CFO, in honor of service, Stanley Bohoric, 2014 to 2023. All right. So as I hand this to Stan, Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
There is a resolution that was prepared in honor and recognition of your work, Mr. Treasurer. The resolution reads as such. Resolution in recognition of Stanley J. Bohoric upon his retirement as Treasurer, CFO of Columbus City Schools. Whereas Stanley J. Bohoric became the Treasurer, CFO for Columbus City Schools on August 1, 2014, and whereas Treasurer Bohoric has successfully led the Treasurer's Office for the past 9 years, and whereas through his leadership, the Treasurer's Office has earned the prestigious Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting Award from the Association of School Business Officials International throughout his tenure. And whereas the Treasurer's Office has also received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association each year under Treasurer Bohoric's leadership. And whereas the Treasurer's Office has earned the Auditor of States Award of Distinction for the most recent fiscal year as the result of a clean audit. One of less than 4% of public entities statewide have earned such distinction. I'll just read the final whereas and resolve.
Oh, no, please.
You got gifts, and wait till you see what I got you. Well, whereas as 1971 graduate of Whetstone High School, where he met his prom queen, his beautiful wife. I affectionately refer to her as the prom queen because they knew each other at high school. But Treasurer Bohoric embodies the values and characteristics desired for all Columbus City Schools alumni. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus Board of Education hereby recognizes and celebrates 45 years career, including the 9 years served as the Treasurer CFO for Columbus City Schools of Stanley J. Bohoric in the occasion of his retirement, effective July 31st, 2023. Mr. Treasurer. Now, on behalf of all of us, this is a gift from all of us to you. You've got some district tchotchkes. You've got a wonderful lunch blanket. Okay. Something that you can curl up with Mrs. B in the backyard in your new estate. In addition to that, we got you some gentleman's things. I'm a big fan, and I know you're a clothes horse. This guy's a clothes horse, especially for shoes. So I got you some wonderful cufflinks. We all did. Got you a really nice bracelet. If you don't like it, I think it looked lovely on Mrs. B. And then, you know, I'm a big person about hankies. So got you matching hankies that go with the cufflinks. In addition to that, we got you a $50. Right. It's representative of a couple of things. It's representative of your tenure of career. But I also got you this. I found one that's earmarked for 1979. So it's even around the year that would be your 45-year mark. So we wanted to make sure that we demonstrated to you and to so many of other staff that this board respects its staff. You know, I shared with somebody earlier today, I think it's my brother right there from the Opsey family, but I said, I don't like this idea of, you know, we don't have to respect each other, but I'm not that kind of man, I'm not that kind of leader. I love who I lead, and I love who I lead with, especially when we have and cultivate that kind of relationship. And I think Stanley has definitely earned that with us. Sir, we give these to you as well. Thank you.
Stan, would you like to say a few words?
That's a dangerous question. No, it's been a great 9 years. I think in some of the conversations I've had with family and colleagues, you do feel like you pedal uphill all the time. And as much support as you get, as many partners as you have, and as many people that to profess to be in support of public education, you do feel like you're pedaling uphill. I had thought that perhaps I should prepare some parting bullet points for all of you, but that would probably take way too long. But you know that as a board and your administration, you have to be very vigilant, because there are wolves in sheep's clothing out there that say that they're in favor of public education when in fact they're not. And we are constantly under attack in my world from the financial side, but there are so many other ways in which some of those folks in other entities come after public education and don't really support a true, free, and open public education system. So I would advise you to stay vigilant and keep up the good work in championing public education in that pre-K-12 realm. So I appreciate all this. Thank you for the gifts and the accolades. It's been a pleasure to work with all of the board members that I've worked with over the years. And you know, people say, what are you going to miss? And I've really, quite frankly, had a hard time coming up with a long list of things that I'm necessarily going to miss. Sorry, but I'm looking forward to the next chapter and waking up on August 1st, and I suppose I'll have to, somebody else might have a list of things for me to do. I don't know. We'll see how that works. No, but I want to thank you for your time, your dedication, your camaraderie, and just really being focused on trying to sustain Columbus schools into the future. I mean, tonight you adopted a resolution that will provide, especially in the area of capital funding, what I would call some generational funding, sorely needed in this district for years. And I'm excited to now sit back perhaps and watch a little bit from the sidelines and how that proceeds. But I really thank you very much. It's been great, and I'm sure we'll stay in touch in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Stan. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move into our superintendent's report. Dr. Chapman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Tonight we have two presentations, but before we get into our presentations, our formal presentations, we would like to invite Principal Erica Dotson up to the podium. As you know, we are broadcasting our board meeting tonight here from Arts Impact Middle School here in Region 6. Principal Dotson has been the proud principal of Ames for 5 years now, and we would like to invite her to share a little bit more about her school and program.
Good evening, all. Thank you for being here today, and I hope you've enjoyed your time so far here at Arts Impact Middle School. It is a wonderful building, and I am blessed to be the principal here. As Dr. Chapman stated, I've just finished my 5th year. We're going into our 6th year, and my staff is committed to building a quality arts integrated curriculum and programming here at Arts Impact Middle School. So we have adopted the Kennedy Center for the Arts definition of arts integration, and you'll see that on the screen in front of you. And so all teaching and learning, all of our professional development, it goes back to this definition so that we can ensure that we are providing our students, again, with a quality arts integrated curriculum at Ames. With that, when I started here, we already had a mission statement that we were calling our vision, but it wasn't truly our vision of what we wanted our students to walk away with when they left their time here in the 8th grade. And so our vision for Ames is that every student develops a quality and cumulative arts integrated portfolio. Our students have a digital art portfolio they keep in their Google Drive, and it showcases their arts. And so each year, in each quarter, they put in one piece, one artifact from their 4 core classes as well as their 2 arts classes. And we do that each and every quarter. So that our mission then is that our students develop to their fullest potential as an artist, creative thinker, and independent lifelong learner. And our staff, we came together as we committed to building this quality arts integrated program and developed our core values that we will develop and build authentic relationships with the students and all staff in the building, be creative, innovative, and open to new ideas and concepts, that we will make sure that everyone who walks through our doors as a staff member or a student or a community or a family member are accepted, acknowledged, heard, and included by classmates, peers, and adults. And lastly, that we will make real-world connections between arts and all of our academics. Within that arts integration definition by the Kennedy Center for the Arts, it mentions that students are engaged in the creative process. And these are just 2 photos that we've taken from our classes. The one on the left with those 2 students and the sketch behind them is from their social studies class as they wrote and studied, and their presentation was on Harriet Tubman, and the students could choose any art medium they wanted to share their information. The one on the right was actually a lesson with a national teaching artist, Kay Thomas, and she did a professional development with our staff, and it's using manila folders to represent, and in this case it was erosion. We've also done it with the rock cycle, but she did a training with our staff and then a 3-day lesson with our students via Zoom. And so these are the students engaging with Kay Thomas. It also makes sure that we're connecting those art forms to other subject areas. So again, on the left is a science lesson, in which they are drawing a graphic description. And drawing graphic descriptions helps students to remember and comprehend information. And so this is an example of the energy cycle. And then on the one on the right there, that is ancient writing from Mesopotamia. And so students are learning, again, about a subject area and then adapting that. So they were writing messages and their names using an old QAnon form. Not only do our students engage, I told you that our staff is committed to building this quality arts integrated program. And so on the left, with our partnership that we've built with Focus 5, that woman right there is Melanie Rick, and I met her at the Kennedy Center when we went to, virtually, when we went to their professional development. But she does a session on reading artist text. And so she did that session with our staff, and then was here for 3 days doing that session with our students. So that you're in science class, and you see this right in front of you, and there is different artwork, and it's not just what's in that science textbook, but going out there and finding real and authentic artwork that you can incorporate in the classroom, and then having the students experience it. They're learning about color and facial gestures and expressions and gestures, and there's a whole 5-step process that they learn, and they then are engaged in reading artist text. On the right, that is my staff. We just had another session with Focus 5, but this is drawing for reading comprehension and vocabulary. And they're thumbnails, they're 1-by-1 squares. And as you read part of a text, then you take a time and you turn and talk with your partner, and then you take a time individually and you begin to sketch what you've just read. So you have a time that you are verbally engaging in communication with another peer, as well as putting it onto paper. And then in the very end, and it was an 8-hour training, but you take everything that you've read and all of your squares that you've drawn, and you make them into one 5-by-5 piece using construction paper and no writing, and you get to cut it up, and so you see them there participating. And they learn about style and line and color and what different colors represent and how they can evoke emotion. And then as a class, so my teachers are trained in doing this, and so then as a class, you can have your students do it. So when you're reading a passage, right, you've read a chapter, at the very end, you'd have 30 tiles connected that give each person's perspective on what they've learned. I've mentioned Focus 5. Again, I met Melanie Rick. She owns that company with a couple other arts integrated people. Sorry, Sean Lane, there we go, is her co-founder through Focus 5. And they do arts integration across the U.S. with different schools from Alaska. She's done some time in Hawaii, so I might ask for professional development in Hawaii. Joking. And so she goes all over, but she's been here with our staff, and we're continuing to build with her. Arts integration in STEAM is another tool that my staff has. They have 75 different strategies that teachers can use in the classroom. They have lesson plans, then they will help you connect those with our Ohio standards. So my staff has had some opportunity to get extended time to develop 4 lessons that they will do with arts integration, and there's a template there for them. And then the Kennedy Center for the Arts, it's a great opportunity to attend a professional development. It's only $75, and it's a 3-day training, and it just opens up wonderful opportunities. This school year, we have started our first Friday visiting artist. If you're not busy on a Friday, beginning in October, please come and join us. It's from 1 to 2:15. And we welcome in 18 to 20 artists from the community. When I first started building this program, I think of it as almost like a gallery hop, right, where you can go and you visit all the artists. But COVID happened, and so we stayed in our last class period of the day, which is known as core enrichment in the middle school world, and we bring in artists. So on the bottom right, if you see someone in blue there, that's actually Rachel Corey, who is one of our communications. She works in our communications office. And Rachel is a dancer. She actually performed with my son, Small World. But Rachel was one of our visiting artists. We also work with Ballet Met. Get Creative helps us recruit our artists each month, but on the first Friday of every month from 1 to 2:15, we ask for the artist, and it's totally voluntary at this point. We'd like to offer them a $25 honorarium moving forward. We're raising some funds. But they talk to students and show them that there is a career in art, and art is different. Art can be, we've had photographers and yoga instructors and chefs and someone who calls herself the hair chef. And she is in that picture, but I can't see where she is. But she works with the students, and they make different oils and things that they get to take home. We work, I don't know if you know Erin Freenbach, who does the balloons for different events, but she comes and does work with our students. And so it just shows them that there's a life in art, and it can provide for you. 2 more, and then I'll be out of your way, and you'll be able to move on with your board meeting. But we have recently developed our partnership with The Ohio State University. I was approached by Maurice Stevens, who's the interim dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, and he would like to create a K-12 Young Art Scholars program, similar to the Young Scholars program that already exists with Ohio State. And so we've had several planning meetings. Our next one is coming up on July 8th. If you're interested, I will share that with you. But we are invited, the visiting artists that we've had, as well as Jazz Arts Group, the Symphony, different artists and organizations within the community, as well as our students and families. We want to have quarterly arts experiences for our students at Ohio State. And 2 of the photos that you see there, we took 24 middle school students and collaborated with Fort Hays. They were able to take 12 of their students, and we gave them a half day at Ohio State within the different arts programs. And so it was a great opportunity. We're going to move forward. We want to, again, just grow access and opportunity to students within arts. Last but not least, as we talk about this Young Art Scholars, I've been doing a lot of work with the Gifted Office and over the past few years to really start to think about having minimum criteria for our students that are coming into Ames through the lottery process to make sure, and this is not to say to rule out a student if you notice that we wanted to look at 3 or better in the effort sections on their elementary report cards, because we feel strongly that we can help you meet your math goals. My students knocked it out of the park here with iReady on their stretch and growth goals. We can do that work, but what we want you to do is be passionate and take advantage of an opportunity that the only middle school for Columbus City Schools, we have 8 full-time arts teachers. And that's amazing. And they're here every day, and they put in the work, and they collaborate with our core staff. So we wanted to look at some minimum standards that we would also look for the students who've entered the lottery that come to Ames, that then would be a part of this wonderful program with Ohio State. They're going on to Fort Hays. We're giving them access and opportunity. We're exposing them to the different mediums of arts, and they're having a great time here at Arts Impact while learning. So with that, I thank you. These are pictures of our staff. On the right, as we had our first musical this year that our choir and theater teacher did. So that's all of our staff. We supported them with wearing shirts. And then 3 of our staff participated in the talent show. We're a fun group here at Arts Impact, but I thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Principal Dotson, for providing us with a sneak peek into the programming here at Ames Middle School. And also, please extend our gratitude to your staff and your custodial team for preparing and hosting us tonight. It is certainly a pleasure for us to be here at the middle school. And although school is closed, because we're for summer, but we're reopening for a summer experience, we also would like to invite everyone back to Ames on their first Fridays. Feel free when their Artist in Residency program begins in October, but first Fridays beginning at 1 p.m. And we can certainly make sure we share that information with you again, so you can again get to see and experience the programming here at Ames. Thank you. So tonight, as I shared before, we have two presentations tonight. These will be just-in-time updates on school opening and graduation. The first presentation is on school opening. We will provide the board with a broad overview of the district's preparations for the first day of school. Our first day of school for the 2023-24 academic school year. We're beginning this mission-critical planning. Right now, we've already begun planning for school opening, and we want to provide the board with just a insight into the planning process, the collaboration that's going on internally to prepare for school opening. You will hear from the leaders of these areas as they outline their goals and plans for the start of the school year. They'll also identify potential barriers that must be monitored as we move through the summer. This work reflects the start of the school readiness process, and our team will be monitoring the progress of the teams throughout the summer. And again, we'll be back here at the board meeting in August providing updates on the school readiness process. We want you to know that this is just the beginning of the conversation we're reporting out at the board meeting. There's lots of work going on behind the scenes, but we want you all to know that this is collaborative work that's going on, that's happening across multiple departments, across the entire organization. We want to provide our board as well as our community with the transparency and knowing that there's lots of work going on behind the scenes to prepare for a smooth opening, and I have certainly tasked the team with sharing what's working, what are the challenges, what's not working, and what are the supports needed to ensure that we are on track for having a smooth opening in the fall. So without further ado, I'm going to call up Monique Jaquette, our Chief of Strategic Priorities, who's going to kick off this presentation, and then she will invite other team members to join her to report out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Superintendent, and good evening, President Adair, Vice President Vera, and members of the board. Tonight, the team is excited to share our Day 1 CCS Back to School Readiness Strategy. And while it may seem a bit early to talk about the first day of school, we believe this is a prime opportunity to activate our strategy to ensure a successful Day 1 for every CCS student. The goal of our Day 1 CCS Back to School Readiness Strategy is to ensure all Columbus City Schools students, families, staff, and facilities are equipped and ready for optimal support, teaching, and learning on the first day of school, August 23rd. But a great Day 1 does not happen by chance. Our Day 1 CCS strategy requires intentional collaboration and transparency across all departments within the district. Specifically, it means our facilities are clean, secure, and inviting. Staff are hired, processed, and in place. Instructional materials have been delivered to schools. Students are enrolled in the correct courses, and families have received essential Day 1 information from the district. As a first step in our strategy, we convened all department leaders earlier this month and asked them to evaluate the readiness of their various departments for Day 1. In order to prioritize our efforts and resources, leaders were asked to name for our team their current state, their desired state, any known risk or challenges that would impede a successful school opening, as well as the strategies that will be implemented to mitigate any known barriers to a successful Day 1. Having gathered real-time feedback from each department, we were able to prioritize our focus for the summer months. In June and July, the team will continue to meet and closely monitor capital improvement projects, staffing levels, and student transportation routing. During these months, our Buildings and Grounds team will also prioritize and complete work requests that were submitted by individual schools before summer. In August, our operations team will continue to complete existing work requests, as well as address any new requests received when our school leaders return. Finishing touches to school interior and exterior areas will be completed before opening day. Tonight, you will hear from leaders in the mission-critical areas listed here. Following tonight's presentation, regular updates in these areas and others will be provided to the senior leadership team and the board as we approach opening day. We'll begin tonight with an update on capital improvement projects from Mr. Trevino. Thanks.
Good evening. So this summer really represents a transition for our team where we are moving from having a very small number of very large projects as we kind of transition out of all these very infrastructure heavy projects into an enormous number of projects that are much, much smaller in scope. And so for this summer, we're actually tracking 96 discrete projects. They cover 15 different categories. I'm not going to read them all, but I put the biggest ones up on the slide for you. And we are touching 55 of our 112 academic facilities. I do also want to point out our school-based health clinic that's still under construction as well, up at the International High School Global Academy. It should be wrapping up here relatively quickly, but I didn't put it on the list because it's just the one project. And then of these 96 projects, we've identified about 15 of them that really have the largest potential to impact the start of the school year. But before I dive into specifics on the volume of projects, I did want to highlight one project that's particularly meaningful to me personally, and I hope to the district overall. So work started as soon as school let out, and this is our classroom renovations, and it's really a pretty comprehensive interior renovation at Hamilton STEM. This school was selected based on a couple of factors. So number one, condition. Condition was pretty poor. It's a relatively old post-war building. It is not a near project plan for the facility master plan, so we know this building is going to be in our fleet for a little while. We also chose it working with the academic leadership team, looking at things like equity, knowing that in the Linden feeder pattern, this is one of the few buildings that's still not been rebuilt or renovated, and also seeing significant improvement in performance with student outcomes. And so this building very recently coming out of priority status. This project's also really meaningful to our team because outside of facility master plan, this will be the first building the district has renovated in terms of interior learning environments other than Woodcrest, which was done back in 2000, so even before I came to the district. And so it's a real pivot from only infrastructure work. We're finally almost at the finish line with air conditioning classrooms. This building's already received that work, and so it's a real intentional shift in the work from all the things that nobody really gets to experience and see. Like, we all need dry interiors, we all want comfortable temperatures inside spaces, but we don't really have a big impact on what teachers are doing and how students are actually learning, and so this is a pretty exciting project for us. So our team led this work. We went through a full design process. So we met with the full building team. So this is building administrator as well as staff. This building will be receiving all new casework cabinets. So if you can see the image in front of you, you can kind of see an axonometric view of the new casework layout for the room, as well as the furnishings. It'll get all new dry erase and tack boards. Really, the interior finishes will be completely new. So we've not reconfigured the building in any significant way, but it will look completely new when you walk into that building in the fall. And then there's a couple of new systems that we're also piloting as part of this renovation work that I want to speak to as well. So working with our information technology and instructional technology teams, all the classrooms will be outfitted with new instructional technology. So the system we selected is an 85-inch mobile monitor. It will be equipped with both a wired and a wireless connection. So really working towards our teaching staff having that real flexibility within their classroom to teach wherever, however it makes the most sense, and also letting students getting really engaged with that instructional technology as well. So we tested this system out with teachers, and so we didn't go into it blindly. We tested it with teachers to make sure we were confident it could work. And we chose it because it was effective for the teachers. It is brand agnostic, so that's a little bit different for us as well across the district. And it's also a relatively cost-effective solution to implement, which means it's also relatively cost-effective to support. And that's going to be really important in terms of sustainability. We've also included a new classroom amplification system. And so if you've been in a newer building like this one, the teachers will oftentimes have a lanyard they can wear around their neck that has a microphone. And I know we hear frequently from teaching staff, I'm loud enough, I don't need voice amplification. But what's really important about this system is that even if a teacher thinks she's loud enough, She doesn't know that the student in the back row can hear her just as well as the one in the front row. And there's also a real change in your tone based on how hard you're projecting. And so we think it's a really important aspect, especially in elementary and early grades, that every student can hear just as well. It also gives our students the opportunity to have a microphone as well, so students can also become part of the learning that's happening for the entirety of the classroom. It also works out that this particular system will function as a paging system for the building. So that's another real value add that we know is often lacking in our older school facilities. And so then I finally, on this particular project, wanted to close with the fact that this project will represent about a $4 million investment in the facility. And so while it is a significant number, just to put it in some context, it's about 15% of the cost of a new 600-student elementary building. So in that respect, it's a relatively modest investment. And while we're able to fund the project this year using ESSER funds, especially given the earlier resolution proposing to put a permanent improvement levy on the ballot, were somebody to ask, I don't understand how these funds will be used. What is the need? It is certainly our intention in August when this project is finished. I certainly hope that people call and ask. I'll work with Dr. Brady to make sure we don't interrupt classroom environments there, but I want people to see this work. It really is important and meaningful for us, and so we're pretty excited about this project. But back to the task at hand for this summer. So as I mentioned, we're closely tracking about 15 of the projects that are the most invasive and have that largest opportunity to disrupt the start of school if we don't keep them on schedule. Our biggest risks are related to schedule management and ensuring that our vendors complete their work within their stipulated timeframes. But keep in mind that many of these projects are not even intended to be finished for the start of the school year. They will need to be what we call substantially complete, which means we can occupy those spaces and we can operate. But many of the projects will continue into the school year, working on either weekends, breaks. A couple of them will even run through summer of 2024, just dependent upon the project. So our CCS capital improvements team, along with our contracted consultants, will keep very close watch on all these projects throughout the summer. In fact, of the images you see in front of you, that image on the lower left is actually the playground at Como Elementary. That image was just taken and texted to me earlier today. So we are all boots on the ground, very real-time information, making sure we're monitoring projects. We'll dashboard those 15 projects that are the most critical in terms of getting ready for the reopening of school. And just to make sure you're aware, those projects really are the ones focused on the major HVAC upgrades, this classroom renovation at Hamilton STEM, and then we have a couple gymnasium renovations, and then we have some walk-in coolers we're doing in conjunction with food service. And now I will turn it over to Mr. Oldham to cover the buildings and grounds update.
Thank you, Alex. The goal of Buildings and Grounds is to ensure all facilities are safe and functional for students, staff, and visitors who enter our facilities. The biggest risk to Buildings and Grounds, Okay, let me back up. Critical items. The critical items that we're going to focus on in Buildings and Grounds this summer is the AC, air conditioning units throughout the district, flooring, lighting, public address systems, fire alarms, roof, and doors. Our biggest risk for Buildings and Grounds is to make sure all of our air conditioning units are functional. The strategies that we'll utilize for Buildings and Grounds is to confirm all air conditioning units are fully functional 1 week prior to school. And then also we will utilize a work order management system to track specifically identified school readiness items throughout the district. Transportation. Our current state in transportation is we are routing over 37,000 students based on the numbers from the end of this particular school year. We will not know our true number for next school year until the July 1st rollover. So we're utilizing the numbers that we have for this particular school year to start our routing for the beginning of the 23-24 school year. At the end of the 22-23 school year, we had 490 active drivers on staff with 532 routes. We're utilizing this number to start the routing process for the coming up school year. And by doing this, we're able to start routing our drivers, routing our routes to be prepared for July 1st for our charter non-public schools routes. Many of our charter non-public schools start on July 1st. We also continue to receive updates of information for routing throughout the course of the school year, and we will update our routings for that for the beginning of day one for school. Our desired state in transportation is our goal is to make sure all routes are efficient and safe, and making sure we can cover those routes on a daily basis. We also plan to implement Campus Messenger, which is a communication tool that we utilize to communicate transportation updates to our families. Then also our goal is to continue to hire 50 additional drivers to help support our routes throughout the district. Some of the barriers that we face in transportation. The nationwide driver shortage is our biggest barrier. We are actively recruiting additional drivers. However, the applicant pool is not very robust for school bus drivers throughout the nation. The decreased driver numbers means our drivers are traveling further and need more time to run routes. By utilizing the maximum capacity per bus, this equates to further distance that we drive as well as time that we have students on the bus. In circumstances where there is not possible to increase the time of driving on the bus, this will require us to increase routes throughout the district. So some of the strategies that we plan to implement and utilize for transportation this coming school year is to implement, again, the campus messenger system so we can communicate to our families throughout the district. This is a system that's already in the district that we utilize for our parents. All the district will be on one platform for online communication. Number two, we plan to continue to hire additional drivers. Our goal is to hire 50 additional drivers for this upcoming school year. Then also we want to focus on retention and engagement for our staff. And lastly, we want to look at hiring additional call center staff so we can provide better customer service for our families and building staff throughout the district. Next, I'll turn it over to Amy Glover for Human Resource.
Good evening. I'm a little shorter here. Okay, this is a snapshot of certificated staffing for the upcoming school year as it stands today and in comparison to the same point in time last year. Vacancies are at a higher level than a year ago in spite of the fact that we continue to hire at an increased rate each year. One contributing factor we identified is an increase of 4.8% in resignations and 10.5% in retirements over last year. July the 10th is a key date in certificated hiring because it is the last day in Ohio for teachers in contract to submit a resignation. After this date, strategic staffing engages with substitute services, area superintendents, and department leaders to assign building substitutes and plan to appropriately staff for the first day of school. Our classified positions are hired on a year-round basis. This data shows current vacancies at a higher level than the last 2 school years at the same point in time and shows a 56% increase in instructional assistant vacancies over the last year. So our goal is to fill as many vacancies as possible. Barriers that we've identified are the higher retirement and resignation rates, the national labor shortage that Mr. Oldham just referenced, and a low enrollment in education programs. All of this combined creates a highly competitive market. Some of the strategies that we have in place begin with what happened here tonight. You ratified a new collective bargaining agreement with CSE-OPSI that will provide improvements across the board for our support staff, including a recruitment and retention bonus, 4% salary increase, and an increase in the pay range assigned to instructional assistants. We will also have a large presence in the community this summer at local events and have created a street team of recruiters and engaged our family ambassadors to support our recruitment efforts. Our relationships with community partners is a priority and has proven successful. For example, we recently partnered with Columbus Urban League and Ohio Means Jobs on 2 recruitment events, resulting in nearly 300 attendees and 71 same-day offers for a variety of positions across the district. We will continue to host and attend career fairs throughout the summer. We value the relationship with our union partners, and with their help, we are able to provide job opportunities, and support to our community members, including outreach to our faith-based communities. I would also like to give a shout out to Lois for giving us a shout out for recruitment while she had the opportunity this evening. We will begin to proctor the Parapro exam at our South High Street location for instructional assistant candidates, and we'll begin providing tests and prep courses at no cost. This, coupled with the increased pay rates, will help alleviate some of the recruitment and retention barriers in the instructional assistant candidate pool. We currently have 64 intervention specialist vacancies across the district. To address the shortage, leaders in the special education department began a partnership with Ohio Dominican that would allow general education teachers to achieve special education licensure. Newly negotiated language with CEA created a similar program that allows the district to identify areas of high needs and recruit teachers to obtain the licensure in these areas. Additionally, we utilize the internal transfer process to redeploy existing staff into identified areas of need. Moving forward, pipeline work is vital. CCS partnered with Columbus State and Capital University to form a Grow Your Own program to build the teacher and substitute teacher pipeline. The Capital City Resident Educator Program would allow those with some college credits, no credits, and even recent Columbus City School graduates the opportunity to work toward their certification while maintaining a paid position within the district. Next, I will hand it off to Dr. Brown.
As I weave around the furniture, good evening. So tonight I'm here to represent information technology, and the goal for the team is to ensure that all technology items and resources are fully tested, optimized, and prepared to support and enhance the delivery of education for our students on day one. And that includes being prepared to have one-to-one from the first day of school. At this point, in terms of current state, we're preparing to have roughly 19,000 devices available for distribution at the beginning of the school year. We have about 3,000 devices on hand. We have another 11,000 some odd devices that are anticipated to come in the month of July. The team is working to configure those and move forward through that. IT is also working with schools to test and update technology in our schools, and we're fixing broken Chromebooks. There's about 1,000 in the pool that we're working on currently. In terms of our desired state, obviously we want to be doing proactive maintenance to have completed all that in our classrooms before the start of school. And to have all our vacant IT technicians positions fully staffed and trained before the beginning of the school year. We've been relatively fortunate in that. We have approximately 55 of our 60 positions filled at this time and are moving forward through that. And again, to have all our available new and repaired Chromebooks configured and ready to go day one. In terms of barriers and risks, obviously, access to buildings undergoing construction, as Mr. Trevino was outlining, there's a dependency there. So if a project runs long, then things that happen after that get delayed as well. We've been working very closely with Mr. Trevino's office, anticipate continuing to do that. I think it's a real clear example of the importance of coordinating our efforts as we move forward. And then while we have been moving through the staffing process reasonably well, we all know that there are some challenges in staffing right now, and that could continue to be a problem for us this summer. We are looking forward again to offering additional positions this summer, so if you know somebody that wants to be a technician, have them reach out. So again, the goal is to be prepared for a one-to-one, to have our classroom technology ready. Oftentimes things get disrupted in the summer with repairs and other movement in the schools, so we need to lean into that. Ensuring the one-to-one, really, we're going to lean into regular meetings with our staff and the vendor that supports our devices and the collection and distribution of our devices in our schools. Again, the total is around 19,000. Again, we're repairing all used Chromebooks that are in the system. Again, roughly about 1,000 of those are in the works right now that are being repaired. And again, trying to ensure that those are all prepared and ready for our students from the get-go. And again, ensuring the classroom technology is ready as well. Again, working collaboratively with Mr. Trevino and that team, as well as the custodial team, to make sure that we have those classrooms ready before we start school. Again, as we get closer, that's where we'll see some of those disruptions that have occurred and maybe weren't communicated. As people are back in the building, oh, we'll notice this got disconnected, it's not working. Okay, this is where we can lean in and do that. I do want to make a couple side things, mentions before I hand things off to Dr. Grubbs. Students this summer who are engaged in summer programming with us can receive support for their devices at their summer school sites. For those students who need support that aren't engaged in summer programming, I'm going to give out a number too. They're welcome to call our IT help desk at 614-365-8425, and they can arrange to meet a technician at one of our summer school sites to be able to get service and support during that time. With that being said, I'm going to hand things over to Dr. Grubbs to talk about transformation leadership.
Good evening, and thank you so much for your time and engagement this evening. I'm excited to share with you our plan for opening readiness to welcome back students and staff for the 23-24 school year. For this upcoming school year, we have designed a two-phase readiness check process. Our first phase is our high school readiness checks. Area superintendents engage in ongoing readiness checks with our high school leaders. First, because they work all year round, and they'll start an engagement this July. Our second phase focuses on middle school and elementary school leaders, since we welcome them back on August 1st. During these readiness checks, we undertake the following process. First, the area superintendent engages in weekly readiness meetings leading up to the opening of school in order to proactively flag issues prior to school opening. Second, our principals engage in a thorough walkthrough of their building using an extensive open readiness checklist where they can report school opening issues to department heads. Third, our new principals and any school with major capital improvement projects receive additional supports via a site visit from the area superintendent and the principal, along with any needed information for department leads. And then finally, I'll be working with our area superintendents in those buildings with new leadership or extensive capital improvement projects to ensure that they are ready to welcome back our teachers and our students. Our building readiness strategies. The first day of school is a big day for our building principals. They spent the summer planning for the upcoming year with their teachers and staff and are ready for the 23-24 school year. This is a game day, a big day for principals, and they've been working with their building teams to prepare for the big day. They've been working with the custodians to make sure their buildings are in tip-top shape to welcome students and staff, with buildings and grounds to make sure the building is in good working order, and meeting with teachers and staff members to prepare for opening day. Principals have also been working with their BLTs and their teams to get ready for PD for the first day for their staffs, and our back-to-school events that are hosted by principals. This is an opportunity where families get a chance to connect with schools. Schools can share those school supply lists, those class lists, so that each student knows who their new teacher is and procedures for that opening day information. In addition, all of this information is shared by our principals. It's on the school websites. It's in newsletters that are mailed home, and we also send voice dial reminders to our families about all these opening day things as far as back to school events and school orientation. The last thing I want to talk about is leadership transitions. We have 9 schools that are welcoming new principals, and we're ensuring our team that these principals have wraparound supports from the team to make this a positive experience for all. We are extremely proud that 7 out of the 9 principals are from our internal ranks, our leadership intern program, or from the assistant principal ranks. This year, this is a lower turnover than in past years, and we're happy to report that we are retaining quality leaders in the Columbus City schools. Know that families will be notified and information on new BIM administrators will be shared with all families. In addition, if we have more transitions, we'll be notifying families as we name principals and share that information up to the start of school. And now, I'm going to welcome to the mic Mr. Tyree Pollard.
Good evening, board. My name is Tyree Pollard, Director of Attendance. I'm going to be presenting on the attendance campaign that supports CCS Day 1. For students in Columbus City Schools to learn and achieve to their fullest, it is critical that they attend school on time regularly and engage in the learning process. Thus, student success requires both attendance and positive learning conditions, both in person and online. So whenever I get a captive audience like yourself and my folks at home, I have a quick commercial about crime absenteeism, what it is and what it's not. So bear with me for a second as I speak about this. Chronic absenteeism is defined as a student missing 10% or more of school for any reason, which includes excused, unexcused, suspensions, tardies, early leaves. Once again, crime absenteeism when a student misses 10% or more of school for any reason. Excused, unexcused, suspensions, tardies, and early leaves. Notably, crime absenteeism can lead to younger students struggling to read by 3rd grade, decreased achievement in middle school, and difficulty graduating high school. These are all priorities of CCS. Since our department was created, we have reduced crime absenteeism by 20% in just under 2 years. We are proud of this impact, but know there's plenty more work to do, and our goals require year-round effort, including the summer. More importantly, this means that just missing 2 days a month, unexcused or excused, can have your child being chronically absent. Missing just 2 days a month, excused or unexcused, will add up to your child being chronically absent. As I discussed before, for this summer, we have many engagements going on. We have the summer experience where we're going to be sending out communications to encourage our families with good attendance. We have partnered with Engage Ohio to reach out to families and provide supports throughout the whole summer. We have targeted outreach by my department. We're going to be contacting families, ensuring them they know their first day of school, they know the transition dates, they know the orientations, they know the ice cream socials to make sure they're ready to go day 1. Lastly, we will be at several events this summer, community events, to increase awareness and provide valuable information regarding CCS throughout the summer. Beyond the above, we are aware that crime absenteeism in the first month of school is a key indicator of poor attendance throughout the school year. Research shows that half the students who miss 2 or more days the first month, will likely be chronically absent for the whole year. In 22-23, the first month of school, 65% of our students were chronically absent. For the year 22-23, 65% of our students were chronically absent during the first month of school. Day 1 CCS will be a key initiative to achieve our goals and reduce us by 8%. So, the desired state. We want a fast start, folks. Fast start, fast start. We want kids to be in school the first day of school, ready to learn. Okay, that's the goal, that's the desired state. Some of our barriers are going to be contact information. Families, please update your contact information in the campus. We know that our families move during the summer, they change addresses and phone numbers, so it's imperative that we have accurate contact information. So when we reach out, we're talking to that person, let them know, hey, school starts this day. The ice cream social is going on. Effective messaging. We need the right message and the right cadence with the right tone to reach every family to reach our goals. And more importantly, the first month of school. This is critical for us to be successful. Our strategies to mitigate these are routine checks and updates to our student information system, leveraging our relationships with our partners to constantly update contact information who are on the grounds doing the work every day. Continue to collaborate with our communications department to develop the right message and the right cadence to reach as many families as possible. And lastly, we are excited to announce Project Day 1 for CCS. It's a new initiative designed to contact historically chronically absent families via phone, email, text messages, and home visits, starting day 1. We want to build positive relationships with our families to ensure they know about resources, key events such as Back to School Fair, which is August 19th, and also the first day of school, which is August 23rd. Once again, missing just 2 days a month, unexcused or excused, will add up to your child being chronically absent. We believe with these efforts, we will assist families early to increase students being ready to go day one. Thank you for your time. I will now going to introduce Dr. Klein, our Chief of Student Services.
Thank you so much, Tyree. In an effort to enroll scholars in a timely manner, the Central Enrollment Center will be offering extended appointment hours. The Central Enrollment staff will be joined by the Student Data Specialist team to serve customers both virtually and in person, whichever they prefer, for appointments on Mondays, Fridays, and all day Saturday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., beginning August 8th through September 28th. We currently take enrollments within the same week of an online enrollment application being completed. We do have a risk that we need your help with. Our risk is that our scholars sometimes do not get registered or enrolled. So parents and guardians out there, please don't wait until the week school starts. Please enroll now. This causes a delay in scholars going to school, getting their schedules, and their bus transportation, so don't delay. We want your scholars now. Any new parents or guardians out there in CCS land, please complete your online application now so that your scholar can start school on the very first day, which is August 23rd, 2023. And next, Jacqueline Bryant, our Interim Executive Director of Communications and Media Relations, has some important information. Jacqueline?
Thank you, Dr. Klein. The goal of communications is to provide comprehensive information leading up to the opening of schools. Currently, the team is developing an online back-to-school resource hub in collaboration with schools and departments that will feature FAQs, key contacts, school supply lists, and more. We have launched paid advertisements to support pre-K recruitment and kindergarten readiness in partnership with the Division of Early Childhood Education. We are also assisting the Office of Family Engagement and other CCS departments and partners for the August 19th CCS Back-to-School Resource Fair. Our goal is to deliver consistent messages at both the district and building levels, along with external partners. This includes sharing internal stories, highlighting district readiness, and earned media. While our focus leading up to August 23rd will be on raising awareness and facilitating access to information, we don't anticipate our work delaying the start of the school year. We will proactively address any identified risks or barriers, whether internal or external, to ensure that we are well prepared. Family engagement. Our family engagement team is focused on strengthening the collaboration between the district families and residents and community partners through robust internal and external stakeholder engagement for the upcoming school year. Beginning in August, the Office of Engagement will launch its virtual family engagement sessions bi-monthly, connecting families to actively participate and engage with the district. During the engagement events, residents will hear from the engagement team, district leadership, and support organizations on current issues, initiatives, and how CCS works with the community to advance student achievement. We also want to make sure our Columbus City Schools community, students, families, and staff save the date for Saturday, August 19th. So make sure you write this date down, Saturday, August 19th. That's when we'll host the Columbus City Schools annual Back-to-School Resource Fair from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the campus of Fort Hays Metropolitan Center, right out here at 546 Jack Gibbs Boulevard. At this time, we have more than 60 community partners who have committed to attend and provide essential resources for our families to ensure they have their back-to-school needs met. A few are listed on the screen. Last year, we had over 7,500 attendees, and this year our goal is to surpass that number with more than 10,000. It's also important to note that we'll have our bilingual liaisons on site to help our English as second language families enjoy the event. So get ready for an exciting and informative event that promises fun, food, and valuable resources. The perfect way to kick off the upcoming school year with a blast. Thank you for your time. I'll now pass it back to Dr. Chapman.
Thank you to all of our team members who shared updates on the work that we'll be monitoring throughout the summer to prepare for a smooth school opening. Tonight, you heard from several departments recognizing that this work spans across the entire central office and across multiple teams. And there were teams that will also be providing updates when we report back in August. So just want you all to know and be aware that this work has already begun, and we are committed to making sure that we keep our eye on this work throughout the summer to make sure that we are preparing for a smooth and strong school opening for the first day of school, which is August 23rd. Any questions? We can go right into our next presentation.
Board Member Beckerly.
No questions, thank you, and I really, really appreciate the insight into how you're thinking about this, and that we're thinking about it now. I mean, I think that's all wonderful. I'm just going to make a pitch for dashboards. I worry a little bit about how much time, and I don't know, maybe it wasn't that much time, goes into preparing for this, and we're taking from the staff to give these presentations. And, if I'd encourage the use of dashboards for both. The reason I think that this is a good opportunity to talk about this is because you're monitoring your progress yourselves, and you're sharing with us how you're monitoring the progress rather than creating a presentation for us. And so I just think that at some point, I mean, everyone's talking about updating progress and all of that. If we're thinking of it in terms of using the same tools you're using to keep track of what you're doing, it should be shared with us rather than creating something separate from that, because it takes away from your time to actually do the work. And I just think it's a mindset thing. So that's all. But thank you, because I do appreciate, or what is evident is a culture shift of sorts, thinking about it now and being really and an intentionality that is very evident and much appreciated.
Dr. Pierce.
Yes, thank you for this presentation. Seeing as how we discussed the risk assessment, my question is, did we include the Office of the Internal Auditor in the risk identification of potential risk?
So at this time, we have not included the Office of Internal Audit as a part of our school opening process. The team met with their individual teams to determine the risk in terms of the deliverables that need to happen between now and August 23rd, what needs to happen, and then what they have anticipated as risk. So this would be, as you saw, let's say HR, for example, if we don't have enough teachers, they're already thinking about working with their internal team to develop strategies for what's Plan B, what's Plan C. And so that is work that we certainly rely on the content experts to help us make sure that we have a plan in place for Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. We do not want to wait until August to determine or begin our contingency planning.
Which I think is great. I think in the past what we've seen is that the Internal Auditor's Office has been kind of brought in after the fact when all of these assessments have taken place. If there's a way to have them at the table as you all are doing the risk assessments, I think would be extremely beneficial. The next question that I had relates to lottery assignments and how they might potentially impact attendance during that first month or that first week of school, as some families still might be waiting for lottery assignments, hoping that they get their number one choice. Do we anticipate, do we have an idea of how many students and families could be impacted by that? Dr. Klein?
Board President Adair, to Board Member Pierce's question, I do not have a number for you, but I will get one. But I will tell you that at least the 70% of our students at this time that had applied for one lottery or more choices have received at least one choice. So that is a great statistic.
Indeed, so we're just waiting on the 30% to see where they might land. Thank you so much, Dr. Klein. Appreciate it. Dr. Klein, I have another quick question that you might be able to address while you're up here. This relates to a potential risk assessment issue. Can we anticipate any costs related to OSHA transitioning to Dragonfly software for the scheduling of games and sport extracurricular activities?
President Adair, to Board Member Pierce's question, we do not anticipate any cost at this time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Klein.
You're welcome.
Board Member Beckerly, then Cole.
I just wanted to address Dr. Pierce's point about engaging the Office of Internal Audit regarding risk assessment for school opening. And what I sense is happening here is that the organization is migrating into risk management, which is exactly where we want the organization to be. And we have actually, for 2 years running, the Office of Internal Audit has engaged in a readiness audit on the risk assessment side, which is their purview, risk assessment as opposed to risk management. And what we've discovered is that what we were really leaning into the Office of Internal Audit to do is to be doing the risk management. So I think that this is a much better approach, because what happened is that the work of the Office of Internal Audit in doing the risk assessment regarding school opening, the work didn't get done and the report didn't happen until well after school had opened. So while they were doing their work, given their charter, it wasn't really accomplishing the goal we were hoping, which was to give us the insight in real time for that thing. So I think that that's a distinction that we need to discuss as a board in terms of going forward, in terms of the Office of Internal Audit and the internal auditors' job description, what we're looking for from them. But I think that this is exciting, actually.
I think it's exciting too, and I think my question of clarification would be, given the work plan that has been shared with us, the work that was conducted in May, there's some overlap between what the Office of the Internal Auditor has identified as potential risk and the presentation that we received tonight. So again, I think if they are at the table at the same time, that overlap will be visible. They'll be able to create synergy around the issues that were raised.
Okay, we will continue that discussion. Board Member Cole.
Thank you. Just quickly, and thank you for this presentation. My question is around, and I'm trying to figure out the way to word it, but my question is around margin of rate where we wouldn't be operational. Obviously, we're shooting for the goal of 100% operational, but is there a kind of margin of error, so to speak, a margin of failure that we're looking at? Ideally, unfortunately, I've experienced this for the last 10 years, at least in this seat, that when school starts, there's one too many schools that's hot, doesn't have enough water, something to that effect. Where are we looking? What are we looking at in terms of ensuring HVAC is operational? What are we looking at in terms of process to prepare for operational readiness and success come first day, first week, first quarter of school?
So to that question, Board Member Cole, we are beginning this work now, so we have the runway to mitigate for any disruptions or anything that would throw this work off track. The goal is for all of our schools to be ready on day one. We want all of our schools to be open on August 23rd. We don't want to have to come back to the board and back to our community and say, oh, but wait, we have one school that is experiencing challenges with X, Y, or Z, and we need to delay the first day of school. As Tyree Pollard would say, that's not okay, because we'll begin starting off the school year saying we need to transition and not start on the first day. So the plan is to ensure that all of our schools are ready. Certainly, we recognize and acknowledge that there are some projects that we'll be working on over the summer that we already know will not be ready for the first day of school, but that will not interfere with opening the doors to our students in preparation for the first day of school. So again, even if it's let's say, an AC issue, again, the goal or the plan is to have those issues mitigated before the first day.
I thank you for that. I again want to second my colleague in saying that I think that's something that gives us an ongoing, and you and Mr. DeFabo are good at sending us text messages, what have you, but I think something that gives an ongoing vision of where you guys are dashboard-wise, virtually, I think that's a great way to go.
Absolutely, and the team is working on that. So I just want you all to know that this was our first formal presentation just to share with you, to provide you with an insight into the work that's going on behind the scenes. This is our last school board meeting for the school year, we'll break for the month of July. We want to make sure that you all know that the work will be happening behind the scenes as the school board meetings have recessed. The work will be in full swing and full motion during the summer. And we will certainly provide you with updates, and it will not be a full presentation. You'll see more of, looks more familiar like a dashboard, but we'll have this background and context to know what we're working on and how we're prioritizing this work over the summer. So thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Our second presentation is on graduation. In alignment with Board Goal 2, closing opportunity gaps, we would like to give the board, again, a high-level overview, 30,000-foot view of our graduation status tonight. Just a few weeks ago, we all had the opportunity to participate in several graduation ceremonies, I'm sure, where we graduated over 2,000 of our students from high school in June. And so tonight, we want to emphasize that this overview is not a monitoring report on board goal number 2, but rather a preliminary update on the progress and efforts made toward graduation and matriculation through June of this year. The team will provide information on the state's more rigorous graduation criteria that came into place this year and the investments made to support students as they move through their high school careers. We will also specifically address the efforts that are being made to close the gap for those students who are potential summer or fifth-year graduates. In October, we will come back to the board and provide the formal graduation goal monitoring report after the completion of requirements by our summer graduates. So at this time, I would like to call up Dr. Corey Grubbs, our Chief of Transformation and Leadership, to kick off the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. President Adair, Vice President Veer, members of the board, we're very excited to share our work to improve graduation rates with you tonight. This presentation, as Dr. Chapman said, is anchored in our board goal number 2. Today, we're going to be reviewing our graduation data. We're going to give you a brief overview of the graduation requirements for 2023 and beyond. We're going to clarify the distinction between a cohort versus a class, which is critical for understanding the state report card. We're going to identify bright spots and what worked well with our current graduation strategy. We're also going to identify what the team has learned regarding our graduation strategy. Finally, we'll review with you our plan for our current projected summer graduates, supports that we have in place for summer graduates, and details about summer graduation. Tonight, you're going to hear from Dr. Brown, Dr. Walker, Area Superintendent Scott Nelson, Mr. Nelson, who will be representing and speak on behalf of all 6 area superintendents this evening, and myself. Again, Dr. Brown. Thank you.
Good evening again. One of the things I want to clarify right off the bat is this notion of cohort versus class. They get conflated a lot. They are not the same thing. And the state of Ohio, like many others, uses a cohort model for graduation. Graduation cohorts, again, are not the same. So talking about 9th grade through 12th grade doesn't mean that you're in the grade level with your class. You can be ahead or behind of that. A student's cohort is set when they enter 9th grade. To be an on-time four-year graduate, you have to graduate within 4 years of when you enter 9th grade. You have to complete all those requirements within those 4 years. As we know, some students advance and actually graduate early. So they're in their senior year ahead of their cohort and graduate early and contribute to the grad rate in the coming year with that following cohort. And on the other hand, we do have students who fall behind and graduate with subsequent cohorts. So students who complete, again, within 4 years of starting 9th grade count to the 4-year cohort, and students who complete within 5 years count for the 5-year cohort. Bringing up the 5-year cohort, I think, is really important because the importance of that 5-year cohort has been elevated in the state model. So the graduation rate now, the way that the state does it, it's calculated both on the 4-year and the 5-year cohorts, with 60% of that value based on your 4-year grad rate and 40% of it based on your 5-year grad rate. The state is really trying to incentivize having kids stay engaged and complete their degree requirements. It's a real incentive for our system to do the same, to keep kids engaged and to get them across the stage. So the 4-year graduation rate for the class of 23 is not final at this point in time. We've got our numbers through June, but we have an August graduation. We will anticipate picking up more at that time. So as of June, 76.2% of the cohort of 2023 had graduated. At this point in time, we've still got 230 students who are still engaged with us. It's not all the members of the cohort. It's the ones that are still enrolled. And those students who are still enrolled with us are still potential candidates for either graduating in August as part of the 4-year cohort or being picked up in that 5-year cohort. And we're working individually with each of those students to plan for them as we move forward. And with that being said, I'm going to hand things off to Dr. Walker to talk about the new and more rigorous graduation requirements.
Good evening again. So I'm going to talk about graduation requirements. And so the headline is that the requirements have changed. They are now more rigorous. Students must, 1, cover the basics, 2, show competency, and 3, show readiness. In September of 2021, new graduation requirements went into effect for this year's graduating class of 2023 and beyond. The updated requirements are intended to give students more flexibility and choose their graduation pathway. Importantly, the new law continues to allow special education students to handle state testing and earn diplomas via the terms of their individualized education program. The new law introduced a 3-prong approach to graduation. The first prong of the new requirement still requires students to earn to pass 20 classroom credits as designated by the state. CCS requires 2 additional credits for graduation, an academic elective and an internship credit for a total of 22 credits. The second prong requires students to score competent on Algebra 1 and English 2 state exams unless they enlist in the military, show career tech apprenticeship documentation, achieve a remediation-free ACT or SAT test score, or earn college math and English credits. The third prong requires students to earn diploma seals. State law created 12 diploma seals for students to demonstrate academic, technical, and professional preparation for careers, college, and military or self-sustaining professions. 9 of the diploma seals can be earned by meeting requirements defined by the state. These include the seal of biliteracy, citizenship, college ready, honors diploma, industrial recognized credential, military enlistment, Ohio means jobs, science, and technology. 3 of the diploma seals defined by the state are local seals: community service, fine and performing arts, and student engagement. State law requires school districts to adopt at least 1 local seal which students can earn by meeting requirements determined by local school boards of education through a board-adopted administrative guideline. CCS, as you know, has adopted all 3 local seals to provide our students with maximum flexibility to meet this requirement. And now, Region 1 Area Superintendent Scott Nelson will share about what has worked well this year.
Well, good evening. I get the opportunity to talk to you about what worked well for the 6 regions, the District of Columbus City Schools. We implemented matriculation teams in every high school, grades 9 through 12. And the significance of that is that we have transitioned from the graduation coach design, which was focused on seniors, to a matriculation coach, which is focused on our 9th through 12th grade cohorts. So under the first bulleted item there, this model helps us to create a consistent focus on track status for all students. So we're catching them earlier, we're identifying their challenges that they may be facing, and we're starting at the beginning of the school year. The second item, matriculation coaches to facilitate data-driven discussions. In doing so, discussing data helps us to concentrate on working to support our students more quickly and efficiently, as I just mentioned. These are things that we're doing regularly and that have proven to benefit our students. Next, the clear benchmarks for matriculation. These benchmarks, beyond just our graduation goals, which are important, helps us to focus on our on-track benchmark, for example. We're all speaking the same language. There's a consistent application and understanding of what on-track status is, thus, again, making sure that we're all speaking the same language to benefit our students. The last bulleted item there, the monthly, weekly cohort meetings to share best practices with high school principals, our chiefs, area superintendents, and principal coaches. As we all know, we're a learning institution. We're learning from each other. We're taking what works well in some of our buildings and applying it across the board. Next, as we were discussing this, it's really quite impressive what matriculation teams look like. Every high school has teams that look like this, or to some variation. A lot of times, staff schedules play into that. But as you can see, we have matriculation coaches, counselors, social workers, class advisors, APEX coordinators, career and community resource coordinators, our attendance liaisons, and our individuals from I Know I Can and communities and schools, as well as our family ambassadors. And what this helps us do is create this collective effort and have this synergy that we haven't had before. It's not that we had people that were doing it wrong or didn't care, but we're bringing it together under a focused model to benefit our students. One of the things we have here as well is a clear communication with not only our students and our staff, but with our families. And that is something that has proven to be beneficial as well. So know that these teams, and you've heard stories, I know you've heard stories. These teams, they focus on building these relationships with kids and our students, and that helps us get our students over the line, so to speak. That helps our kids come to school one more day. That helps our kids work on doing homework, those types of things. Also, it's important to point out that the matriculation teams also operate out of, excuse me for that, it also helps us focus and operate out of the slide that Dr. Walker shared. Lastly, I get to share with you the bright spots of our efforts here in the district. There are clear, consistent goals and guardrails for matriculation. This helps us to center our work on commonly understood goals and guardrails. For example, again, the on-track status, the significance of the senior spreadsheet, which every building is now using for all cohorts. The second bulleted item there, you see strategic and systematic focus of all staff on graduation. This helps to target our efforts in maximizing student success from day one. This goes beyond our cohort meetings to staff meetings, classroom interactions, in the hallways. I've seen people talking to kids about graduation, matriculation specifically. Next, our celebrations and incentives for students in improving from off-track to on-track status. These help us and are done in class meetings, are embedded in our PBIS rewards. The byproduct of this, all of this, is helping our students to instill more ownership over their matriculation from grade level to grade level. And lastly, we have more opportunities here for our intervention due to our expanded focus on data. Again, we get to intervene early and more often than we've had in the past under this matriculation model to support our students, not only academically, but social-emotionally as well. Before our students get too far off track, we can nudge them and get them back on track. Thus, it helps us to reduce barriers so our students can be successful. And now at this point, I'd like to bring back up Dr. Grubbs.
So what have we learned? We learned from this process that there was often the hustle to get our 12th graders to graduate, but we were missing those 9th through 11th graders, and if we had caught them much earlier in the process, we would have had a different amount of success. That's what we learned, and that's why the change took place. But by engaging in this process as early as the first quarter of a student's freshman year, we were able to have those critical conversations with family members about students' attendance, their behavior, and grades to get them back on track much earlier. I want to talk about some plans to address the gaps. In order to tighten up our support for 9th through 11th graders, we intend on shoring up the collaboration between our attendance, our PBIS, and our matriculation teams to ensure that everyone is rowing in the same direction and that we're providing those systematic supports across each school. Second, by having these matriculation meetings as a shared practice across all schools, we're going to be able to further identify bright spots and have all schools share our best practices and strategies for intervening for our Tier 2 and Tier 3 students to better support them. Finally, we also learned that we need to codify and refine our practices for credit recovery. We have some schools that are engaging in credit recovery and finding phenomenal success. We want to unpack those bright spots and have our high schools learn from them. The goal is to intentionally find time to provide PD for all high schools to engage and learn from each other so we can have continued success with that strategy across the district. Dr. Walker?
Thank you, Dr. Grubbs. So you can all smile because I'm going to bring you on home. So I'm going to talk a little bit about support for our summer school. And so it's kind of interesting when we're looking at summer school, as Dr. Brown mentioned, we have 230 students who are off track. We also have 230 students who are enrolled for summer school. And summer school began yesterday, and so or today. And so the big takeaway for us is this: that we need that we have made an additional. Yeah, I think we need to advance the slide, please. Oh, I need to advance the slide. Note to self. Okay. Okay. Appreciate you. Okay. So, so the big takeaway is that we made an additional investment. Okay. And so this year, right, as opposed to in previous years, every high school has an Apex lab. Okay. And so that means that before we had it was sort of intermittently dispersed throughout the district. This year, make sure that every high school has an Apex lab with non-academic support for students with barriers to their success. So the idea here is tailored responsiveness to students where they are, okay? And students were free to enroll, because we know we're a district of choice, at the high school that was nearest to them. So just because you attend Fort Hays, if you live near Marion Franklin, you can enroll at Marion Franklin. Another distinction is that this year, an entire team was boarded at each high school. And so that team that was alluded to by Mr. Nelson just a moment ago is an administrator. It involves teachers that are working with kids. It involves counselors and a matriculation coach, which in most cases is a teacher who's working for extended time during the summer. And again, the idea here is collaboration. You've heard that several times. How are we working together to lead to collective efficacy? All right, we know that when we work together, our combined efforts are greater. The sum of our combined efforts is greater than any one individual effort. The third takeaway is that this year, we have weekly progress checks on Thursdays. And so our deputy superintendent, as well as Dr. Grubbs, myself, members of our teams, have been laser-like focused on inspecting what we expect, because we know what gets monitored gets done. And so we're wanting to look at, okay, where are our students? Some students all of our students have different needs. Some are what we call green, some are yellow, and some are red. What's the difference? You say, well, a student may just need an internship hour, right? That student is green, right? There's not much that needs to happen with that kiddo to get them across the finish line. But other students may have more significant needs. Those students would be captured, curated as yellow or red. And the importance of that is that we're looking at how can we make sure that the resources are focused on those kids. Again, this goes back to the idea of tailored responsiveness, what their need is, but we're making those decisions where those kids are. We're making them at the building level, and central office is supporting our building leaders and those teams at the buildings to make those decisions and making sure that they have the resources that they need to support the students, leading to increased student outcomes. Okay, so I'm going to remember to advance the slide now. So our second to last slide is that all of this work culminates at summer graduation. And so we certainly welcome all of our community, our board, to join us. Summer graduation is August 11th, 2023 at 9:30 a.m. at East High School. But the important idea here is that for kids, and I was a high school principal for 10 years, and there were many times where we saw kids that, didn't quite make it through. But those kids can still go to college in the fall if they graduate in the summer. And so many of our kids complete during the summer graduation, and for those kids, they're still part of that four-year cohort group, and they can go on and to whether it's college, career, military, whatever the next steps are. All right, lastly, and this is really for the team, for Dr. Chapman, not just myself, thank you. Certainly appreciate your time on 2 extended presentations. But also we want to make sure that we're here to address what additional information might be helpful to you, or what we can clarify for you around these presentations or this last presentation.
Ready for questions? Okay, Dr. Pierce.
Thank you so much for this presentation. I want to spend some time with the matriculation team and coach. I think it's great that we have matriculation coaches and we're taking this long view of a matriculation of a student's academic journey. I am, however, concerned about where students and caregivers fit in. If we look at slide 7, we have the counselors, the social worker, the class advisor. We don't list student or caregiver. So have we identified the roles that students and caregivers play when those check-ins happen, how often those check-ins happen, how parents are informed, even at the 6th, 7th, 8th grade level, if their parents are on track, if their student is on track or not.
I know that Scott is preparing to share a little bit of context here, but I'll just want to share that the matriculation team is the process that the team is using to monitor the data in real time. Certainly, there are conversations with students throughout the entire school year to follow up, but this is looking at the data in aggregate. So looking at the data, we've created a process that ensures that every school is meeting regularly to monitor the matriculation for each cohort in real-time, regular basis. And they are using spreadsheet, similar to a dashboard. It's not as fancy as a dashboard, but they are using spreadsheets and a dashboard, similar to a dashboard, to monitor that data in real time and have conversations about what needs to happen, how they need to deploy their resources, which could be time, it could be energy, it could be scheduling changes, it could be support, it could be additional contact and engagement with students or families. But this is what the school is doing to, again, monitor this work in real time, and again, determine how they need to case manage moving forward.
So I would still think there would be value to having students and caregivers give insights on that matriculation process.
So absolutely.
How is that voice being heard?
I would say that, when the students have their plan, right? So our counselors, our teachers, our graduation coaches, our matriculation coaches are engaging with students and families all the time about their specific plan, about where they are on track to graduate throughout the course of their journey in high school, from 9th grade to 12th grade. So they have their plan, but that's a more specific conversation because what every student needs is different. And so that is a very tailored, specific conversation where we're engaging with families. But certainly, the family ambassador is on this team intentionally to ensure that the building-wide engagement opportunities are scheduled and planned to ensure that those messages are going out to families and there's intentional communication with our families.
So I would like to request additional information because it was even mentioned in the presentation that students are learning their on-track, off-track status in class meetings and through the PBIS process. So I would like to know if there are particular times in which we as a district are going to be very clear to families and saying, at the end of freshman year, you can expect information on whether or not your student is on track. At the end of junior year, you can expect information on whether or not your student is on track. If we have that information, that timeline clearly identified, I would like to have that information.
So I will certainly invite any of my team members to share additional insights, but families don't have to wait on a specific date to know when their students are on track, right? So you can log into your parent portal right now and see where your students are in terms of their grades and their plan, which is uploaded in the parent portal. That's not something that we hold back and share at certain dates.
Not that you would hold it back, but I'm from the generation where you got, maybe it was a green sheet of paper, and it had how many credits you had, how many credits you had to go. You had to sign it, your parents had to sign it. If you were so off track, you had to go in and meet with the guidance counselor to discuss how you could get on track. So that's what I'm referring to when I say
Yes, and that plan starts in 9th grade. Yes.
So again, my request is for information just around, with that timeline and how that plan is being shared with families and students.
Okay.
Okay. My next question then relates to credit recovery. Based upon information that we received from the Office of Internal Auditor in May, there is some risk around our credit recovery. I think it's great that we have the Apex labs going on, but the question is, have we addressed some of the risks that were identified? And if so, can you speak to that?
Absolutely. We have addressed all of the concerns that were brought to us by the Office of Internal Audit. We have had several meetings with the principals, the Apex coordinators at every school to make sure that they have a clear understanding of their role and the adjustments that, these were recommendations that we worked with, collaboratively with the Office of Internal Audit to say, what are the flags? And then how can we create or mitigate these flags so that we ensure that we have the necessary procedures in place to ensure that everyone's needs are protected, with the students as well as the staff. And so we have provided formal training, we've provided in-person training, we provided support, on-the-job support. The team has went out to each high school and met with the coordinators to make sure that they are well versed in those strategies and recommendations. And again, the plan that we came up with was done in collaboration with the Office of Internal Audit. When we provided the presentation for our principals, the Office of Internal Audit was there with us. I remember seeing them sitting in the front row. So they participated in the training with us as well. And if you want us to share more about the specific recommendations, we can certainly do that. But I'll just share, like, one example was during the pandemic, we provided more flexibility for our students to take the exams, the APEX exams. That flexibility was usually they could take it remotely. And so one of the recommendations was to ensure that all of our students came into a site to take their exam. So that was a recommendation that was made. We've already implemented those recommendations. It's not something that we're, again, waiting or holding on to implement for next school year, and we'll continue with those recommendations throughout the summer.
I appreciate that. And as I think about just our academic outcomes overall, I think that's one of the areas where we really need to stress to our students, we want you to perform well in the classes when you're assigned to them, as opposed to going the credit recovery route. And I'm not sure how we can make that message stronger to our students and families, but I think that's an important message to get out, is that we want you to do well when you're assigned in the courses and not wait for credit recovery.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Board Member Cole.
I'm somewhat in the space that you might have answered my question already. The 230 students that are outstanding right now in preparation for graduation, what percent of the cohort do they actually represent? Are they at 1%? Are they at 2% representation of the cohort? Are they 20% of that cohort? What do they represent in terms of number? 7%. So should they all go through and maybe just half of them, of that 7%, 3.5% represents 2023, then that means that we're going to see 76% go to 79%, what it's typically have been for the past, even during COVID. It was 79%. Nearly 8 out of every 10 of our students is graduating high school as a cohort. I'm just kind of trying to get an idea of what your deadline number is, deadline date is, for us to know what the final graduation number is. And then moving forward, I think that these types of presentations don't have to be as extensive as they are tonight. And please, I say this in a spirit of encouragement. I say it in a spirit of love and development, please understand. Most of this stuff we already know. 90% of this stuff we already know. I think what we did need to know are what the numbers are, what the deadline on the number is that we're waiting for, and the remediative steps that you're taking moving forward, kind of the ladder slides. I think that would have been more helpful. But what's your deadline date to know final graduation number?
Thank you, Board Member Cole, for that question. So yes, I can see you doing the mental math in your head over there. With 230 students that are enrolled in summer school and currently off track, we certainly are working with all of the students, but we have certainly identified, as we're looking at the number, we're identifying the students who are really close to graduating in August, meaning they may be short, like I think an example was a SEAL or a internship hours. And then so there are categories where we are tracking that, kind of red, yellow, and green. And then we have also identified the number of students who are so close to graduation, like maybe they're missing one credit, right? And so it's very easy for them to make sure that they attain that credit in summer school as long as they stay engaged and we stay connected with them. So we're, again, tracking and monitoring this data over the summer, and we'll continue to provide updates on where we are. But yes, we are certainly well on track to meet or exceed our graduation rate from the previous year. So again, this means that we cannot take our foot off the gas right now. Right, the school year has ended, but our work is not done and it's never done. So we're going to continue to stay focused, continue to leverage the support of these teams, the matriculation teams. What was new, certainly we've talked about this work as a part of the monitoring process, but what we're sharing is new, is that process that we've been implementing during the school year, we found some success in that process. And so now we're making the necessary investments to shift our summer school strategy to align with the strategy that we've been implementing during the school year. Previous year's summer school, we corralled all of the students from across the district and provided summer enrollment, summer programming for high school at one site. That's not working. Now we're saying we're going to go to your school in your neighborhood or your home school, and we're going to provide the matriculation teams and the support that we provide during the school year during the summer experience. So it's more intensive intervention to ensure that we continue to increase engagement with our students and our families throughout the summer so they can stay on track and we can keep more of our students engaged and certainly on track to graduate in summer.
I thank you. I appreciate that. And just in closing thought, you all have given a wonderful idea in culture change that we're looking at the earlier grade bands and that you're expanding that matriculation team there. Just give us a sense moving forward as to whether we need more of this type of staff, because it seems like we might, but I look forward to what's coming forward. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Vice President Vera.
Thank you, and thank you for this report. My question was just around, on page 5, just talking more about the diploma seals. And I guess, will we learn more about just the monitoring process to demonstrate the readiness of these seals? I mean, some of these I can see, but some of these are, I guess I'm questioning, how will we go about monitoring and demonstrating the actual readiness of one of these 12, of all 12 of these seals?
Yes, we can follow up answer to that question.
Thank you.
Okay, that is all the questions.
Thank you. This concludes the superintendent's report. And again, this is preliminary information. Again, we'll continue to monitor and focus on supporting our students throughout the summer, and the official report, once the official data is in after summer graduation, we'll be back to the board with an official monitoring report.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go down to the treasurer's office. We don't have an executive report, but Stan, it's your last report, so I'm giving you a chance.
Well, I have the opportunity. I'd waited 40-some years to that one board meeting when they asked for a very short report, and I said, well, we had some, we got some, we spent some, and we've got some left. That got a little bit of laughter and a cheer, but no, I have no report for you tonight. Just a lot of thanks, and to everyone who's been in touch with me, I really appreciate the positive comments. You sometimes wonder, are you having an impact? And a lot of people have said that we had a surprise gathering. My staff had a surprise gathering, and there were folks there from the very beginning to the very end, and yeah, it was pretty cool. So. But thank you all, and to all a good night, I guess.
Well, I do want to say, I was going to let Board Member Cole do it, but he got up for a second. We are voting in our consent agenda to name Deputy Treasurer Jenny Vanover as our interim treasurer. So we are excited to do that and welcome Jenny into that chair sliding down one starting in August, so that they will be interim treasurer Vanover. All right, so we are going to go to item 9, which is our public hearing on reemployment of retired employees. We have a hearing on the reemployment of retired employee Scott Nelson. No one signed up to speak on that, so that hearing is concluded. We will now move to our consent agenda. This evening, our consent agenda consists of items 11.1 to 26.9. Are there any?
Move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any items anyone would like to discuss? Dr. Pierce, member?
So within our consent agenda, we are renewing and also placing individuals in permanent positions related to the administrative organizational changes. I would like to, at this point, voice some concern with the performance of some of these individuals as indicated through student academic outcomes within our community. And even given this presentation that we've had this evening, we know that academic performance, the success of our students is critically important. The Ohio test scores that we will see show that some of our regions are making great gains in academic outcomes and performance where some of our regions are not. Tonight, again, we will be voting to, again, put people in renewal and permanent positions within regions and positions where some of our students' academic performance is of concern. And so I would just like to voice to the superintendent as well as to my colleagues that I think we should be very mindful of these positions that we are kind of confirming for individuals, and just mindful at what we expect in terms of them being able to move the needle forward for academic performance in regions as well as within the district.
So that was item 20.1.
Yes. Administrative organizational changes. I didn't want to list out the names.
I appreciate that. Okay.
Okay.
Are there any other comments on item 20.1, which is our personnel board?
I would also like to echo, some of the comments that Dr. Pierce made. I too have some concerns about some of the contracts that we are renewing in that space. Looking at the data now in my second year, I've voiced concerns to, former leadership, present leadership, that I do believe we have to look at some strategies in some regions differently. And so that is something that I too have concerns about and have voiced those concerns, and certainly want to be able to support administration's decisions, but ultimately looking at the data and taking into consideration feedback from those regions and those areas as well.
Any other discussion, Member Beckerly?
Along those lines that Vice President Vera is raising, and I think that that's a valid point, is that, it's not so much that I have hesitancy about the what's on the consent agenda and what we're approving tonight, but, we need not necessarily stay in these regional strategies if they're not the right ones. I think that's a good point.
Member Brown?
Just very briefly, I want to remind the board that our role in this area of personnel is very limited, that these are the superintendent's decisions and recommendations, not ours, and that we get to approve. If we want to disapprove, I believe it requires a supermajority.
So at this point, if I could just respond.
No.
Back and forth.
We don't need a back and forth. He
I don't
gave his
think-
opinion, you gave your opinion.
I don't think so.
There's no need to do a back and forth on it. Not at all. I didn't recognize you.
Okay, I don't think
Are
it
there
will
any other
cause back and
comments?
forth.
Are there any other items anyone would like to discuss?
So I think in regards to our PBIS supports, those are listed in personnel as well. Why we are voting to approve some of the PBISs for the 2022 through 2023 school year, I would like us as a board to go back to that PBI policy that we recently voted to approve, to look at should additional supports be given to buildings to implement PBIS moving forward this year.
Okay, other comments? Other items to discuss? Please call the roll.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes, with the exception of item 20.1, where I'm voting no.
It's very hard to hear you. I'm sorry. Which item?
Yes, with the exception of item 20.1, where I am voting no.
Thank you. President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
So yes, with the exception of 20.1, which I'm voting no, as well as 16.3, which I'm voting no.
20.1 and 16.3.
I don't see it.
I'm sorry. Which one is this? Which transportation, did we pull that one?
That's 17.3.
Sorry, 17.3. I was looking at the printed version.
17.3.
17.3.
That motion carried.
All right, we are now going to jump down to item 28, which is executive session. Vice President Vera, you have the motion.
I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session per section 121.22 G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of public employees.
There's been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Roll.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. And what could be for the last time? Motion carried.
Thank you, Stan. All right, we will go ahead and adjourn into executive session. This will conclude the televised portion of our meeting. So to all of our staff who joined us this evening, thank you. It was great to see you. We will see you back in August. So we appreciate your work. Thank you all.